Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
I love sports.
Sports.
When it comes to Texas A&M,
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Lucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin, Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program, and we're building it into a great program.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
That's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
Say goodnight to the bad guy, I hope, on Saturday. Lane Kiffin's got this ability to be like, he's not going to keep doing it, is he? He's not going to keep poking. And I'd like to say poking the bear, but poking the rabbit. But he keeps finding ways to make it look like it's part of his normal conversation to talk about A&M in such a condescending way. We're going to hear a little bit from him. I got to admit, I like him and I don't like him. It's a both. It's a love-hate thing. I think he's funny. He's good for college football. I don't like when he comes after A&M, so A&M's got to send him a message. Welcome into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. With me is the real Olin Buchanan.
Yes.
A year ago today, you were dressed up as Batman.
I was dressed up as you.
Oh, that's
But yeah, and I, you know, here's the deal. I couldn't win the TexAgs costume contest last year, so I figure I can never win it, right? So, because I thought I had the perfect costume last year.
We do a oh, that's right. We do that.
So I came with no costume this year.
That's right. Somebody else won.
Actually, I wanted to. I have a costume in mind, but I couldn't get the props necessary
in time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could be somewhat of a costume there. You could be like a retired, like grandfather at home who loves A&M. That's kind of the look.
Yeah, it's kind of who I am.
You know?
I'm not a grandfather.
No, but I'm just saying.
Lynn's not cooperating in that regard.
Let's wait on that for a little bit, if possible.
Yeah, we can put that.
He's 19.
Yeah, I guess he is. He's almost 20.
Almost 20.
Yeah,
almost 20.
Yeah, about 2 months, 3 months.
I guess, should we do this? I could switch up the order a little bit. We usually check in at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, but I feel like because today we've already started talking about Halloween. By the way, happy Halloween to all the kids on their way to school this morning. If you're listening, I think you're still potentially driving to school. Let's check in at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center because Kay Nagley is working the desk this morning. Kay, good morning.
Hey, good morning. I just need a moment to check my hair. Hold on. Okay, it looks good.
You haven't brushed your hair ever.
No, I haven't. So actually, for Halloween, I hope that maybe I could get a gift from the TexAgs office. If we could just install a mirror right there so I could just check how good I look when I flex every 10 minutes over here, that would be much appreciated. But anyways, good morning, David.
Did you borrow that suit from OB or did you get yourself one?
What suit? I'm in the gym 8 days a week, 25 hours every day. I don't know what suit you're talking about.
That's why Kay and I get along so well. I appreciate Kay.
It looks like Kay Nasty.
Right?
Nagley, yeah.
I heard laughing in the background. That was good. It was like it was a belly laugh from somebody. I don't know who it was, but I could hear it from here. It was good. What do you got planned for the day, Kay?
Well, I was probably going to listen to Taylor Swift for about 10 hours straight. I already got that started earlier today. I was walking in the office listening to some of her classics. Oh, it never gets old. Then I was going to watch some Travis Kelce highlights for no particular reason. And then probably yell at Richard for the last 2 hours of my day.
Okay.
No weightlifting and all that.
Well, yeah.
It's my off day. It's my cheat day.
You get days off?
Yeah, I was going to eat a burger today.
Oh,
so you're really going to live today.
For those who don't understand the joke on the zone, Luke Evangelist is dressed obviously as Kay Nagley with a muscle suit and some hair that has not been brushed, which I think Kay's hair is always brushed.
Well, first of all, I don't know who Luke Evangelist is, but he needs to be fired. He sounds like he doesn't do any work around here. And second of all, this is the real Kay Nagley for all the viewers on the Zone.
This is like a cross between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Pamela Anderson and
Burt Reynolds.
And Burt Reynolds with the mustache.
Yeah. Burt Anderson. All right, we'll check in again with whoever that is at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center from actual news in a moment. Let's talk Lane for a moment, can we?
Yeah.
So it was a storyline a couple different times this summer. I forget why, but just sometimes during the offseason you recycle topics, and one of those was and there was a part of me that's like, maybe this year, because I mean Jimbo didn't really he didn't take any bait yesterday. He was just kind of, hey, he gave Ole Miss their props. Lane Kiffin gave A&M some props as well.
A lot of props.
Almost in a condescending way. He wasn't wrong.
He wasn't wrong.
But he was definitely do you think he's doing it so if he wins, he's like, look what we did against a world-class team in A&M?
No, I think he's doing it so if he wins, it even makes A&M look worse. I think he's, his target is Jimbo Fisher. So what he's doing is, and he's talking about how great A&M's talent is. And when is that ever a cause to be bent out of shape when somebody's saying that you have NFL talent across the board and that they've done a great job collecting talent? Now, you can say, what do you mean collecting? Why don't you just say recruiting, right? But you know where he's going with that, because A&M's doing what everybody else in the country does, including Ole Miss. But his message is, hey, A&M has all this NFL caliber talent, and yet they're struggling. Well, why is that? And that's what Lane wants you to do. He wants you to ask that question. Why is that?
Well, I have my reason for why. And there's several reasons. There's never just one reason, right? Like there's other reasons. My biggest reason is the easy answer. It's the lowest hanging fruit. It's called blocking. That's the easy answer, right? Figure out the blocking. I think you win.
I think you're right.
Right. There are other issues. Special teams has been a problem. Early on, they weren't aggressive enough defensively. You can say the play calling has not been ideal since Max has taken over, and there's maybe
that
reasons
goes back
for
to
that.
Blocking.
Right. But
by the way, I really have to commend you on your Buddy Holly costume today.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Good joke, OB. That was good. I don't even have a comeback. I will think of stuff.
I'm sorry. I interrupted your train of thought.
Thank you. Where was I? Anywho, what was I talking about? The blocking?
Yeah.
To me, it's all about the blocking.
All about it.
I think we would look at Jimbo Fisher differently with blocking.
Yes, I agree. I think
and that's not to give it a pass these last couple of years. I'm just saying I think we look at him differently.
I think if A&M had a more effective offensive line, again, look, they incorporated the quarterback sneak last week, and it worked. And it worked, right? So if they had it, maybe that's something that we can look forward to, is that they're going to be more effective on short yardage situations. So I think we've seen A&M move the ball.
Yeah.
So yes, I think if the blocking was more effective, that you would see a team that would score more points, and for a team whose defense doesn't give up a lot of points, if you score more points, you win more games.
Yep, absolutely. Let's listen to Lane Kiffin give those props, and then the subtle jab at the end of the commentary. Here's Lane yesterday at his press conference.
Lane, third straight year in one of the two polls, programs hit top 10 or cracked inside the top 10. Just what does that speak to what you've been able to do, especially with setbacks during the season that y'all been able to overcome?
Well, I think that's kind of neat. I guess 3 straight years to be in the top 10, but it doesn't matter to me except for what you finish. So it's good that it brings attention to the program, and to be able to do that, especially as you're going against a program that normally you would think would be the team in the top 10 3 years in a row with their roster. That says a lot about our players, our coaches, our fans, but what really matters is where do you finish at the end of the year. So that's our goal, to keep getting better, keep winning games. We try to, achieve our goals and not let others achieve their goals. I think I read where Jimbo said their goal is to be bowl eligible. So if we can get in the way of that, that would be good for us too.
Nothing he said was wrong.
Nothing.
But they're jabs. They're absolute jabs.
Um,
But you heard Jimbo's comment about getting bowl eligible.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Okay.
Because, you still have Abilene Christian. You got to tap in there. You got Mississippi. You're going to be bowl eligible. And I know what he was saying.
He was saying
you
focus on about this next game, which will get us bowl eligible.
Right. But yeah.
But when a program
to make that statement, when you're Texas A&M after not being bowl eligible last year, it just, maybe it's just a kind of cold slap in the face of reality that it's come to this.
By the way, the other thing he said that wasn't wrong is it's where we finish. Last year, they lost 4 out of 5 games to end the season. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And they're in the exact same position.
You know what the one they won was?
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Yeah. Connor's first start, by the way. Throw that out there. He was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're in the exact same position. Where do they finish? Now, we're going to talk to an Ole Miss insider, Neil McCready, your buddy.
Good guy.
I'm going to ask him, is this team more like the 2021 team with Matt Corral that got hot and did great up until the end, right? Or are they more like last year's team that lost 4 out of 5 games to end the SEC season with their only win against A&M? This game should be personal for A&M. Should be.
Oh, I'm sure it is for Jimbo. He just would never admit it, which coaches don't typically do. They typically don't say, "Oh, yeah, this means more to me."
Yep.
But I would have a hard time believing that it's not.
By the way, this is Coffee Talk presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat the hell out of the morning by going to texags.com/coffee. We are giving out some coffee this morning, so if you can be the 12th texter with the words TexAgs Coffee, we'll get you a free bag of coffee up front here at TexAgs. Luke or Kay, whoever's working the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, will take care of that info. The Mississippi State game, 6:30 p.m.
Yeah, it must be a really light schedule that week, and that's not meant to be mean, but you got to call it like you see it, right?
Yep. The fan in me likes the later games. The worker in me likes the early games.
Yes.
Regardless, these aren't the most desired time slots in the SEC.
Well, 6:30. Now you wish you could play every game at 2:30. I think 2:30 is prime time for college football. Some would argue with that and say the night game's the better one.
Yeah.
At least you're not in the 11 a.m. At least you're out of the mowing zone for a week.
I did jump ahead. So we heard Lane talking about A&M. Let's listen to Jimbo on Lane Kiffin. Here's Jimbo Fisher yesterday at the press conference when asked about Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin.
How much when you face Lane do you have to account for maybe some of the unorthodox things that he tends to do in games, like, for instance, faking a punt at his own 16-yard line last year?
People do that all the time. There's different people who do it. Every coach has his own style of how you coach and what you play, and he's been very successful with his and done a good job. So, you go off guys' tendencies just like you would what a guy's tendencies on fourth down, what his own red zone, whether it's, whatever they're, like last week, we were ready for every, Shane Beamer is always known to pull fakes. Their punter was 4 for 4 with completions. So every fake punt, every angle, they did a really good unbalanced formation where they'd never showed us in that game where they had to guard was an eligible guy, which we hadn't seen. And our guys recognized it because we were aware that, they will do things, let's say shenanigans or tricks on punt, things like that too. We had to go over that last week. That was a big emphasis during the week for the success they've always had on their punt, their special teams. So, each coach has his tendency of what he wants to do when he wants to do it.
Yeah, but not all coaches on 4th and 16 or whatever it was. What was the number?
It was like 4th and 2 or 3, maybe 1.
From the 16.
But he was on their own 16 and they gained 4 yards. Remember they snapped it to the kid that transferred from Auburn. He's like 350 pounds. Yeah. Pegues. And they got the first down and went and scored.
Yeah.
You stop them there. There's so many opportunities A&M had to win that game. And it was usually because they just got caught flat-footed.
We've given a lot of props, to DJ Durkin this season since the Miami game for the adjustments and the way that defense has played. Beaglow, our coaching friend on the YouTube channel, says this game, in my opinion, is the big game for Durkin. No one abused Durkin worse than Kiffin last year. Dart ran 18 times for over 200 yards, rushing for 4 big plays off a short side wheel route by Poole, the tackle play, not Dart, the QB.
And they didn't spy on him when he was in the end zone. I think it was McKinley.
Yep.
It might have been McKinley, might have been Albert Regis, but somebody was chasing him in the end zone. Well, they're never going to win that. And he ran out of the end zone on like 3rd and 9 and got the first down because A&M forgot. Did they forget that this guy can run?
Yeah.
And you're not going to spy in that situation. Just, I'm still frustrated about that.
Well, and look, there's so many check marks we don't get to check on the offensive side of the ball. But when we came into the season, we had questions about the defensive line getting to the quarterback. Check mark.
Yes.
We had question marks about the linebacker play. Edge Cooper might be the best
Gold
linebacker
star.
in the country, right? So DJ Durkin, even though we have, and by the way, this is a different level of team they're taking on because they haven't taken on a lot of great offenses. And do we consider Ole Miss to be a great offense?
I don't know if it's great.
Pretty darn good.
It's good.
Yeah,
I mean it's good.
This will be a real test. This will be a real test. A team that has scored on the inferior opponents, not on necessarily the good opponents.
Yeah, I would say it's worth making the argument that it's the best offense you've seen since Miami.
Yeah.
Because Alabama, for all they talk about about Alabama, that's a team that doesn't always score a lot of points, and they have issues in the offensive line. Tennessee, is that a high-powered offense?
I wouldn't say high-powered, but high-powered running game.
Yeah, but are they putting up huge numbers every week? No. So now Ole Miss, their huge game was against LSU. Well,
LSU,
a lot of people doing that.
Yeah. Well, and has LSU improved their defense since then? Somewhat.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But have they improved the caliber of competition since then?
They took on Army.
Exactly.
Oh, my bad. Yeah. Let's check in behind the glass. If you want to be part of the conversation, you can do it by calling us or texting us 979-693-1150, 979-693-1150. Let's go behind the glass and say hi to Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Howdy, good morning, y'all.
What's up with you?
Well, I was told that you saw the purple screens behind you and said that the colors are off.
Oh, are you doing that on purpose because of Halloween?
Yes.
Oh,
dude, come on, got to be festive. Look at the lower thirds. It's.
Oh, I guess it makes sense now. I just thought the screen kind of like burned out.
So the screens are in costume?
Yeah.
Huh. Where's the Halloween? Where's the pumpkin?
I'm working on that.
Where's the
as we
spider?
Speak, actually. So.
I can tell in the lower third. There it's obvious, but here, sorry, it just looked like it was off.
Man,
but great
so
work.
Much work, just nothing.
But now you get the credit for it. See, think about it. If it would have just been for color's sake, we wouldn't be talking about it, right? But now that I had to ask the question, and by the way, I asked it quietly, not on the air. Now we get to appreciate the artwork of Nick Savage, who probably touched one button, and then it's just like
that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, how very TCU of you.
Yeah, well, Richard Zane said the same thing too. He said, "Why didn't you do orange?" I was like, well,
no.
Exactly. See me and
We're
David
not
are
doing
on the
Hey, I got a question about that. Is it just all orange?
No.
Or does it have to
orange
be a
is fine.
specific shade of orange?
Specific shade of orange.
I just didn't even want to touch it.
Although I wore once, I don't even know if orange is the right word. It was kind of orange, but like definitely a bright orange-y kind of look. And I got some hate.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to wear orange, Nuño. What kind of fan are you?
Yeah, Irma bought me this shirt. It's a dress shirt, and it has some orange in it. And I don't wear it in town.
Yeah.
And I said, I just don't need the aggravation.
I have one of the boxing gyms that I go to they gave me a purple shirt, and I wore it, and people are like, you can't wear that, bro. That's LSU.
Yeah, right.
Sorry.
Yeah, I got in trouble the first year I worked for TexAgs because I wore a blue sweater to the Ole Miss game. I'm like, it was cold outside. And in fact, I'm surprised. I got to be honest. I'm really surprised that Nuño hasn't gotten all kinds of criticism for his wife not working at Maroon Theory.
Oh, they should change the colors. Well, didn't they do that to Whataburger at one point?
Yeah,
They talked about Hooters, like if they were going to do it, it'd have to be maroon or something. I know this in Bryan. Yeah.
So, I think the one Whataburger here that has a maroon stripe. I think that's the only one where the folks at Whataburger said, yeah, well, okay, go ahead.
We got
whatever.
it. Yeah, I do like maroon. Dynamo orange, Astros orange.
I remember. Gosh, I'm having a blank brain lock. The former athletic director, whose son is the athletic director at Alabama now.
Bill Byrne.
Talking about how he was getting emails from people wanting him to do away with the orange Gatorade vats, you know, and he's like, folks, we got bigger things to worry about than Gatorade's color of Gatorade's logo.
Let's hit a break here, Olin. And I know that Luke. Can I just go back to calling you Luke? I mean, people know you're dressed in your outfit.
No, this
that
is
you
K.
wear on Friday nights.
K Nasty.
Tom Selleck over there, ladies and gentlemen. With
that's who it is. It's Tom Selleck, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Pamela Anderson.
Let's hit a break. OB Fargo's time. Tuesdays.
What
does that mean?
Today means rib tips.
Yeah,
and that's a treat. There's no trick to the trick is getting in early so you can get that treat.
Yeah, and then
that's the trick.
Then you can go trick or treat afterwards.
Oh yeah,
there's a neighborhood right behind you. You can go trick or treat right there. There's
in fact, I would. Here's what I would do. I would recommend that you call Fargo's now.
Okay.
And order as many. They come in styrofoam cups, so cups of rib tips as they have. Like, say if you get 10, eat one for lunch because you got to enjoy.
You gotta do that.
And then hand out rib tips to the kids at Christmas.
That's what Fargo should do.
That's what they should do.
Hey,
did I say Christmas? I meant Halloween.
Yeah,
but you should do it again for Christmas because that'd make a great Christmas gift.
To be very honest with you, I am surprised none of our listeners that love us, which is at least 100 for you and 4 for me, have brought us rib tips just randomly.
Well,
just hey guys, I love the show. Here's a rib tip. Because you know why? Because if I had rib tips, I'm not sharing.
I understand that. Al actually, brought me their spaghetti one time that's made with rib tips.
Oh my goodness!
So instead of like sausage or it's rib tips. Rib tips for Halloween.
The rib tips are great. 1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan, without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in the world, or Texas, i.e. the world.
You know this is a trademark.
Well, because I know it's true.
Yeah, it's Fargo's. Go check it out. We are back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. I am David Nuño. And let's do a little Apex Performance of the Week presented by Apex Health. Feel like you're losing your edge? It could be low testosterone. Increase your energy, sharpen your focus, and boost your performance with a custom treatment plan from Apex Health. Learn more at apexhealthclinic.com. Apex Health Clinic is owned and operated by a veteran, and they serve the Brazos Valley. OB, you want to start off with one?
There's so many, but it's one of those things like if you have the second pick in the draft, there's two great quarterbacks, you know you can't go wrong. You don't
C.J. Stroud, Bryce Anderson?
Right. You know.
Sorry, just felt like saying that.
I'll take, my favorite player, Nia Smith.
Okay. He was fantastic. Why wouldn't you?
Why not? That 42-yard touchdown catch just before the half, that was
the turning point.
Boy, that was such highlight reel stuff. Makes he gets open, first of all, the route he runs. He makes the catch. He walks the top rope down the sideline for a while, cuts back, and then dodges a guy and then falls in it. It was beautiful.
Yep. I 100% think he was the man, but there were other candidates as well, and they were the men as well. How about the SEC Co-Defensive Player of the Week by the name of Edgerrin Cooper?
I can't believe he's co.
7 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, a forced fumble, 4 quarterback hurries. He has played at this level all season long.
If he doesn't decline in the last 4 games, if he keeps playing at the same level, I think it'll be probably the grossest college football injustice since Jim Brown didn't win the Heisman Trophy if he's not All-American.
He is an All-American. And the thing is, gosh, I don't know if it's this simple. We actually talked about it on Luchador, but do we win the Tennessee game if he doesn't get hurt?
Yeah, I don't know. Is he on special teams?
Well, the offense.
Is he on punt coverage?
Right, but just think about it. 2 of their 3 best defensive players missed half that game or that game. I'm just saying, you never know what the plays leading up to the plays.
It's possible. I mean, you want everybody out there, and he's playing great. He was making a good play on the play, got hurt.
Yep. The other one, I just mentioned him.
Another on defense?
Another guy on defense. This is a lot of defense, by the way.
Yeah.
Have you heard of the player that I just named? Bryce Anderson. Yeah.
Good
Bryce Anderson was great. Look at that. 2.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. The 7 and a pass broken up. Yep.
He took over for a guy that was drafted.
Who had an interception this weekend, by the way.
And I think the production at that position has increased with Bryce Anderson there. I think Bryce Anderson he's going to leave here as one of the best players at safety ever. He's so good. And I think the biggest challenge for Texas A&M with Bryce Anderson is finding the position where he's going to be best at. And that's hard to do because he's good everywhere.
Yeah. No, he is so good, integral part to what they do. And
now you give me Bryce Anderson and Edgerrin Cooper for that whole game against Tennessee? Because I asked Jimbo yesterday, I just said, well, hey, how big of a factor is Bryce Anderson in the run defense? Because we all know he's good and Jimbo went on. And the reason I was asking that is simply because Bryce did not play against Tennessee. And what's the only team that's really run the ball pretty well against A&M?
Tennessee.
And you know who has a really good running game?
Ole Miss.
And you know what Ole Miss has done to A&M in the running game the last 3 games they played?
They've run the ball really well.
Over 200 yards, 3 straight games.
And 390
last year.
Good God.
So have Bryce Anderson out there helping you out.
How about one more for you, OB? Actually, we'll do 2 more. I'll throw in an extra one. Fidel Diggs.
Fidel Diggs is just consistently good.
Yep. He is 4 tackles, 2 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, a sack, pass breakup, quarterback hurry of 1. He was great. And he's a quiet great too, right? Like we don't say his name, I think, enough, but he does it. He's consistent.
Yeah, he hadn't had that game. He's great against Alabama, right? He's kind of like Anias, but he's just consistently good. you kind of know what you're going to get from him. He's like that. He's like Boots Radford. The guy's going to average. He's going to get you 12 to 15 points. Well, he's just going to go out and get you tackles, and he's going to pressure the quarterback. And I hope they don't drop him into pass coverage anymore, but they'll drop him into pass coverage. He might get an interception.
By the way, I'm going to throw in one that I think it's unfair that I have not brought this one up yet. We're 31 minutes into the show.
The man with flypaper hands?
Pardon?
The man with flypaper hands?
What does that mean?
Max Wright?
Oh, no. we could put Max Wright on there. Absolutely. Was he on my list? I'm trying to look. Did I not put him on? He should be on there. Absolutely.
He played really well.
He did play.
A couple
tightrope and catches.
Yeah, had a couple of catches, and then he had one that was a beautiful touchdown. That was,
not called a touchdown.
It's not his fault that SEC officials are incompetent.
Well, yes, but the one I was going to say is we're 32 minutes into the show. I've mentioned the Astros twice. I haven't mentioned the Rangers, who won Game 3 of the World Series. They deserve
Corey
the props.
Seager, that guy.
Did you watch the entire game?
No.
Okay.
It's too stressful for me.
Yeah,
it really is. But I'm checking it. I'd watch it when the Rangers bat, and then I just couldn't bring myself to watch until late when they were. When they're in
I know
the
that
field.
feeling.
Yeah.
Like there's certain games like I don't know if I can deal with the stress right now. Like I've been there.
Because I've been through, and you know what? They've won so many games when I wasn't watching that I was kind of thinking, hey.
You're doing them a favor.
I am.
You're doing them a favor. Let's hit a break. Your buddy Mike Hugan is going to join us. We haven't talked to Mike in a minute.
As good a guy, and he is a college football savant.
Anything we ask him, he'll have an answer.
I guarantee you.
Yep. Well, we'll do that here in a minute. The future of joint pain relief is here. It's QC Kinetics, advanced regenerative medicine, and it is amazing stuff out there. If you've been told, you need more steroids, you need surgery, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need a second opinion, folks. Those aren't your only options. Get a second opinion and learn why your own body's healing agents can help attack that joint pain that you've been dealing with for a long time. I'm talking about lasting pain relief. QC Kinetics doesn't mask the pain. These treatments go to the very root of the problem using concentrated healing properties placed directly into your joint to restore and repair that damaged tissue. So imagine living life, right? It's getting cold out there. You want to go and enjoy life, and sometimes the cold makes those joints hurt a little more. Let's get rid of that with no drugs, no downtime, and no surgery. It's about living life in motion, and QC Kinetics is about giving people their lives back with these all-natural treatments. Call the local medical professionals at QC Kinetics for a free consultation today. They are the nation's leader in regenerative medicine. That number, 979-452-6000. QC Kinetics, 979-452-6000. That is 979-452-6000. Welcome back in. It is TexAgs Radio on this cold Tuesday Halloween morning, October 31st, 2023. Dalton, a long time ago, said you should say the date in the beginning of the show. I never remember to say it. By the way, it's the Go Hour. You knew that.
I did know that.
Yeah.
I knew it was October 31st.
Yeah, presented by the warehouse at CC Creations, David Nuño, Olin Buchanan. And we go to the hotline, joined by, as Olin called him, a college football savant, a guy that Olin's known for a long time. I've known Mike for a long time. Mike Huguenin. Good morning, buddy.
How you guys doing this Halloween day?
Doing well, Mike.
What's the weather like in Florida right now, Mike?
The high today is going to be 84.
Okay. Right. I think the high today for us was, in the 50s?
50s, yeah.
Yeah, and the low was 43.
But next week it's supposed to get back into the 80s.
Okay. I want 70s.
Okay.
That's what I prefer.
All right.
Mike, that has nothing to do with college football, so let's get right into it. What do you think about this A&M Ole Miss rivalry and maybe the genesis of it, and just Lane Kiffin, who seems to have it out for A&M and Jimbo at any cost?
I think Lane Kiffin has it out for almost everybody. I think he likes stirring things up. That's his personality. He's got a pretty solid team to back him up. But, yeah, Kiffin, for whatever reason, seems to revel in creating controversy in a way. He's unlike most college coaches in that regard who don't say anything interesting. I think Kiffin goes out of his way sometimes to spice things up.
How good are these Ole Miss Rebels, Mike?
I think their running game is quite good. I'm still not a huge believer in Jackson Dart. He has 14 TD passes, but 8 of those came in 2 games. He threw 4 against Mercer and 4 against LSU. And LSU's secondary might be Mercer's level. It's a team that needs to run the ball to win. Defensively, they are, I would argue, adequate to okay. Certainly not anything close to elite. Kiffin is a good offensive mind. He's a good play caller. His team does cool things offensively, but it's not a fully formed team. He doesn't care enough about recruiting to ever win the SEC. Let's put it that way.
Mike, to run the ball effectively, and I haven't watched enough of them this particular season, do they do what Tennessee does, spread you out, and, is that their formula, or are they just going to run it down your throats however they can?
No, they like to spread you out, and Dart is a willing runner. He's certainly not a great running quarterback, but he's effective because he's willing to run the ball. They do spread you out. They got 2 good backs. Judkins, who got off to a slow start, is really playing well now. Ulysses Bentley, the SMU transfer last year, didn't do much last year, but he has sort of emerged this year. And they have an offensive line that knows how to run block. But he does spread you out, and he does take deep shots, and that your safeties have to be worried about the deep shots, which opens up a lot of the field.
So how does Texas A&M finally beat Ole Miss again?
I think they have to do anything they can to stop the run. And then, again, as weird as it sounds, against a guy with 14 TD passes, with some solid receivers, they need to make Jackson Dart a pocket passer. Offensively, they need to hit some chunk plays of their own. I think it's going to be harder. You guys obviously have seen the A&M offense up close, but that looks like a sort of a stale unit to me. But defensively, the key would be to don't let Judkins run all over you. Don't let Bentley hit big plays, and make Dart into a passer. Keep him in the pocket.
Mike, when you watch A&M, and you mentioned the stale offense, what do you think is the biggest issue? Obi and I have our theories on why this team has struggled, not only on the road, just struggled in general offensively. What is your theory, if there is one?
I think the offensive scheme is outmoded. It's dated. I think there was a analyst last year, a former quarterback, who said, "I saw these same plays when I watched Florida State play." When Winston was there. And I think to an extent, that was hyperbole, but I think to an extent that's true. The offense has not morphed fast enough to keep up with what's going on these days. The talent level certainly is there in defense. And then, while I'm not a huge DJ Durkin fan, I think he has done a really good job with the defense this year. The defense has kept them basically in every game. They did get shredded against Miami in the second half. I would put part of that blame on being on the field forever. But offensively, I think that's the problem for Texas A&M. It just looks like the opponents know what's going to come. There's not enough. I don't want to say razzle dazzle, but there's not enough. The scheme is just it's old, and that needs to change.
Yeah, does it kind of feel like the end of the Les Miles era at LSU?
Yeah, in some respects, yeah. What worked in the past doesn't necessarily work today, and I know they brought in Petrino. I expected a more high-powered passing game this year. That hasn't come about for various reasons, but it looks more to me like it's still the Jimbo Fisher offense, is somebody else calling play.
Let me just ask it for conversation's sake. How different does that offense look if it's Connor Wegman orchestrating it?
Oh, I think the offense is better with Connor Wegman. Max Johnson does not have Connor Wegman's legs, and Wegman is a more dynamic guy. Now, all that said, I'm not sure that this offensive scheme takes full advantage of Wegman. I think if I'm an A&M fan and I watched Haynes King last week, or I've watched Haynes King this year for Georgia Tech, which is not a talented team, Haynes King's playing high-level football, and he never did that at Texas A&M. Not even close. He had pockets of, hey, he looked really good in that game. But it looks like Haynes King has sort of been unleashed in a way, and that's, I would think, be disheartening for an A&M fan. And yes, Wegman is a better quarterback than Max Johnson. But I never thought Max Johnson was that bad. The kid threw 27 TD passes for Ed Orgeron. And that certainly was not a well-coached LSU team when Max Johnson threw 27 TD passes. For whatever reason, it's like A&M's a really high-level, high-priced car, but for whatever reason, there's a regulator and it can't go past 75.
Well, okay. Hey, I'm sure David's still going to ask you some more things about A&M, but I want to ask you, is anybody under more scrutiny this week than your Florida Gators? It seems to me if they don't beat Arkansas, they're not going to a bowl game.
I agree with that. The last three games are LSU, Missouri, and Florida State. I don't think they can beat any of those three teams. Napier, the over-under in Vegas was 5.5 wins. They're at 5. So they got to beat Arkansas. It'll be interesting to see Arkansas this week with a new offensive coordinator since they fired Enos mid-season. But Napier, weirdly, Kirby Smart helped Napier out on Saturday because after the game he was asked about Dan Mullen in the Florida rivalry. He said, well, the previous guy didn't recruit. And that's sort of the issue for Florida. They're playing a ton of young guys. There's 11 true freshmen who see a lot of playing time on both sides of the ball, especially defensively. Right now, Florida's got the number 3 recruiting class in the nation coming in, and that gives you some hope for the future. But you're right. Right now, if they don't win Saturday, they're not going to a bowl game, and that is not good for Billy Napier. My assumption is he's going to have to hire an offensive coordinator in the offseason and quit calling plays himself, and he needs to hire a special teams coordinator. Right now it's an analyst, and their special teams are horrendous.
Interesting.
Mike, let's close out with Clemson and Dabo's rant yesterday. What did you think about it? I have some empathy because I get it, but I feel like he isn't evolving in college football like he needs to, but I also understand the expectation levels.
Well, to me, Dabo doesn't like the transfer portal. He doesn't like NIL. Well, too bad. That's the way of college football now. And if you don't adapt, you're going to die off. You're a dinosaur. And you look at this year's Clemson team specifically. Look at their receiving core. oh my God, those dudes should be playing at Memphis. It's a very under-talented receiving corps. He needed to go into the portal and bring in 2 or 3 guys. He needed to go into the portal and bring in 1 or 2 offensive linemen. He needed to go into the portal and bring in a DB or 2. He's going to have to adjust, or the Clemson run is over. Klugget's another guy. I think that he has it in him, but he's not getting enough help. And I would argue that Dabo is making it worse for himself with all these mini rants. I'll be honest, he seems extremely thin-skinned to the point where I'm thinking, holy Moses, this dude's like Gary Patterson. He's got a ton of success, but if you take a shot at him, his initial reaction is to fight back and say something, and he's just got to sort of let it roll off his back. It's easy to do that when you're going 12-1. Obviously, now they're 4-4. They may not make a bowl game, and that would be alarming in terms of the talent on that team. Now, it is a talented team, but it needs to be talented. Again, a couple positions need more talent, and that's on Dabo for not going into the portal. And he's going to have to adjust, or Clemson's days as a power in the ACC are gone again.
Mike, great stuff, man. It's been a while since we've had you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Always enjoy. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Mike Huguenin on the hotline. Appreciate his time here. Obi, I'm going to ask you this as a guy with thin skin. I sometimes have thin skin. Depends on the topic matter, but I can. Why do people have a problem fighting back?
Well, I think it just depends on the situation. I mean, if you're deserving of the criticism, then
just deal with it.
Then deal with it, right? And you're in a high profile position like that, and like you saw, and it's like college coaches gone wild lately. Ryan Day got all mad at
Lou Holtz.
And then you saw the North Carolina State guy got all upset at something I think it was Steve Smith said. You're seeing coaches go, Lincoln Riley tried to tell some guy, you can't cover the team anymore.
Yeah.
Coaches have got kind of crazy, and that's just the last one, I guess.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with Guest the Line with Luke Evangelist, I think. It's coming next on TexAgs Radio. You were saying?
I need more cowbell.
You need more cowbell?
I need more cowbell. I got a fever.
You got a fever?
And the only prescription is more cowbell. You've seen that.
No, I have no idea. I was just
Really?
acting like I knew you were talking about.
You need to see that skit.
What skit is that?
That's the most famous Saturday Night Live skit ever.
Ever?
Will Ferrell? Yes.
Okay.
And it's all with the Blue Oyster Cult, Fear the Reaper.
Okay, well, we'll watch at one of these breaks.
You need to.
Hey, it's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations, Angry Elephant News and Social Center, Luke Nagley. I don't know what to call you.
Hey, good morning again. Let's start off with number 13, LSU at number 8.
We're guessing the lines, by the way.
Oh, yeah, that's what we're doing. At number 8, Alabama.
Say that again?
Number 13, LSU at number 8, Alabama.
I would say Bama by 4.5.
Bama by 1.
It's Bama by 3. Now, what if K. Nagley and K. Nasty got in a fight? Who's winning there?
K. Nagley.
Yeah, Nagley.
Yeah.
Nagley.
Okay, disrespectful.
Nagley's more masculine.
No, it's just the truth.
Okay. I'm sorry. I don't think that's
I would say more she's stronger. That would be the word I'd use.
She works out more.
Okay. Number 25, Kansas State at number 7, Texas.
Oh, good game there.
Texas by 6.5.
Yeah, I think you're onto something right there. I'm going to agree with him. Texas by 6.5.
It's Texas by 4.
Yes, let's go K-State. Huge fan this weekend.
Number 14, Missouri at number 1, Georgia.
Georgia by 9.5.
Yeah, I say Georgia right around 12. It's going to be misery for Missouri.
It's Georgia by 16.
Oh,
Texas A&M at number 11, Ole Miss.
I believe Ole Miss is favored. I think I've seen this by 5.5.
5.5, yeah.
The line is actually now moved to 3.
Yeah, they know something I don't know.
Smart money on the Ags.
Yeah.
Let's go.
That means they think it's a coin toss.
Vamos.
Because the home team gets 3 points.
Yeah, what else?
And then real quick, over under 2.5 pieces of candy eaten by David Nuño today.
Oh, under, without a doubt.
Is negative an answer?
Can broccoli be candied?
By the way,
I don't think so.
I do like blow pops.
Whoa.
It's been like 2 years. But I like
what?
Blow pops.
Whoa.
They're candy that has gum in the middle.
Oh, okay.
It's like a delicious treat.
Best, you know what? Best candy ever. Just the Hershey bar. Just the.
I haven't had since the 80s.
Just the.
We'll be back.
Just the Hershey bar.
Bye. A Ghostbusters Halloween kind of feel today. Welcome to TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. The real McCoy's in the background, ready to join the show on the hotline. Let's go to it. Talk to Jamie McCoy, former Texas A&M tight end. What's up, Jamie?
What's going on? How you doing, Dave?
I'm good, man. So what's the Halloween plan for tonight?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, do you got me? Hello. Jamie McCoy, do you hear me? I'm going to give it one more try. Jamie, do you got me? Hello. I'm going to use my R&B voice. Jamie McCoy.
Hold on, come again. It broke up for some reason.
You got me?
I got you now.
Okay, here we go. Jamie,
what'd you ask?
I think I asked about Halloween. What do you guys got going on tonight? A little trick-or-treating?
Man, we got some trick-or-treating. We're going over to a buddy's house, and then afterwards we're gonna do a quick little dinner, pizza and whatnot, and then we're gonna head out and trick-or-treat before the kids say they're freezing.
Yeah, well, it is definitely cold out there. Let's get into some Aggie football. Every week we talk, because I know you're typically optimistic. You've had a brief moment of not so optimistic. So I'll ask you, what has the South Carolina victory, the way A&M went about their business, at least in the second quarter, to really put that game out of reach? Well, somewhat out of reach, I should say. What did that do for your confidence level the rest of the way?
I can't say it did anything great or bad for it. Because honestly, I felt like the way that we handled South Carolina is exactly what we were supposed to do. Granted, we didn't come out and start fast like I wanted us to, but we did everything that we were supposed to as far as winning the game. Great offensive plays, great defensive plays, and then special teams not hurting us, so to speak. So it was good. I mean, the intro song you had with Ghostbusters was perfect for heading into this week, because that's what we got to do is get these demons off our back as far as not being able to win on the road, especially versus a ranked team. And just a quick little tidbit, I was watching some highlights from last year, and I forgot Kiffin came out there on the field talking to our players. If they don't remember that, I know Bryce Anderson in general, if they don't remember that and carry that and have some kind of bad blood going into this game, shout out to Taylor Swift, we're not ready.
Yeah, why do you think it felt, at least in the first few minutes of the game, the first quarter, that like they didn't really work on anything during the bye week? Obviously, I know they did, but that was kind of like the feel, like, wait. All these things that you were supposed to try to refine, fix, for the first 15 minutes of that game, I didn't see it.
I'm not positive what it could be, and it could be coming off of the bye, because sometimes a bye can help you out and you come out there and you're prepared. You got some new plays, some new wrinkles that you want to work on. And then sometimes that bye can be like, hey, we kind of forgot the flow of the game and how we're kind of supposed to fit and dive into this thing. I think we just didn't come out as aggressive as we needed to. I mean, defensively we did, but offensively I wanted to see us air it out and attack more. We eventually got to that, but I think it was more of a case of that, just not being as aggressive as we need to be.
Are you saying that from a play calling standpoint or from a player execution standpoint?
I think it's a play calling standpoint. I was there at the game and I didn't see enough vertical threat. I mean, we look a lot like the Cowboys, where it hasn't been a lot of scoring. You got the potential, you got the athletes, we're just not putting it on paper. But then you see how the Cowboys came out against the Rams. Dak was hitting guys into the end zone. You're catching it in the end zone, a 20, 30-yard pass caught in the end zone. That's what I want to see from us, because I know we have the talent, and I want to make sure that we're opposing defenses, their corners are really if you're good, you're going to get a pick, you're going to get a pass breakup. I hate us not even testing those guys and just giving them respect that isn't deserved.
Jamie, let's evaluate tight end play. How about Max Wright? I mean, the touchdown that didn't count, but that wasn't the only thing. It should have been a touchdown. I will keep saying that. But just overall, I mean, he showed some tight rope walking, ability to make some great catches, including the touchdown that didn't count.
Hey, that touchdown that didn't count, we were sitting there watching. I called it. I said, man, that's a great catch. That's a touchdown. And everybody, no, man, he was out of bounds. And come to find out, I mean, from the when you slow it down and pause it, he has control. His foot's in bounds. I don't know how they weren't able to overturn that call. But I love Max, man. He's coming into his own. One of the toughest catches he made, I don't know if you remember it. It wasn't for a lot of yards, but the throw was low, and it's one of those tough ones where you got to get your pinkies on the ground, kind of cradle the ball in, and he kept it from hitting on the ground. That is a great, tough catch for a guy of his size. I love the fact that we're getting the 2 tight ends with him and Jake. If we can keep this going moving forward, this game here is going to be our season breaker. If we can win this game, I think we coast through the rest of the season, and we have a showdown at the end of the year with LSU. But love seeing Max take a step. He's definitely doing this, and Jake is doing the same as well.
Do you think this team is more, and it's probably not a fair question, but like we're 8 games in. We should know, right? They're 5-3. We should know who they are. And maybe we do know. We just hope that the lights click on, because it did click on in one game last year against LSU where things went the way they're supposed to be. But do you think this team is more like the second quarter A&M team against South Carolina, or more like the first quarter we saw? Or, the easy answer is somewhere in between.
Yeah, shoot, on the road, we seem to be more of the first team or the first quarter team. But I think deep down in this team's bones, I think we're more of the second team. I think we have athletes. I think we believe in each other. I think we got a good synergy. I don't think there's any rumblings in there where people aren't buying into what Jimbo's speaking, with anybody speaking for that matter. I know we'd like to shore things up on the offensive line, but like I said, I don't think there's any rumblings and grumblings of people just being so upset that we can't figure this thing out. So I like the spot that we're in. If we can come out there and control the line of scrimmage, not let these guys run and kind of dictate our own run ourselves, I think we stand a good chance on Saturday.
Jamie, I'm at this point in my life where there's things that I just don't remember in the moment, and then later it hits me. A lot of people are texting the show. OB made a comment about the cowbell skit on SNL, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then he showed it to me at the break. I was like, oh, yeah, I've seen that. Do you feel like with kids and work and life, like there's certain things that they're back there, but sometimes it takes, I don't know, a little prodding to like, oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You sometimes you got to go to the Rolodex, the old filing cabinet. Speaking of that, this has nothing to do with that, but there's so many quotes and things that I hear about that I haven't. My wife was just so upset with the passing of Matthew Perry. Sunday morning, I do football. She knows I'm doing the countdown, getting my fantasy teams lined up, and she's like, hey, come watch Friends with me. I'm like, no, it's not happening. Like that's gone and done. But to your point, I'm gonna get some slack from this, maybe on Twitter. Who knows? I've seen some episodes, but I still have not watched The Office.
Really?
And that's one of I know Leone. There's a few people that are like, dude, this show is a game changer. It's a classic. It's this, it's that. But that's one of the ones that I haven't sat down and broke down myself. So I gotta get on the ball myself. But OB, I saw him back there in the background. Tell him I said hello.
I will.
But
by the way, just not to put you on the spot, do you know the cowbell skit on SNL?
I feel like, is it Will Ferrell?
Yeah. You know,
I feel like I've seen. Yes, it's. I have seen it, but
but that's how it is. It's like, you know, like
it's fuzzy for sure. And I think that goes into this new age where it's YouTube and TikTok and everything is so fast paced, and you see something now and then you don't even remember it 2-3 days later, something else has come. It's just where we're at this day and age.
Completely off topic, but like I feel like sometimes when I binge watch these shows, and then like back in the day, you'd wait a year to watch the next season, right? If you wait 3 or 4 months, I sometimes don't remember how the show ended. Like, wait, who's that? How did that end? What happened? What?
Oh yeah, it's definitely like that. Definitely like that for sure. I mean, I know some people that won't start a show until the seasons are already done, and then they get to sit and just watch it all in a week or so. So you're not the only person out there, Dave.
All right, back to football. So I feel like there's this rivalry with Ole Miss and A&M, and I heard some comments from Lane yesterday that I took as subtle jabs at A&M. Some people didn't take it that way. I did. But no matter what, Lane Kiffin does have a beef with A&M, right? There's no doubt about that. All you have to do is look at his post-game press conference last year, the comments on Twitter afterwards. There's a lot. So I'm going to ask you, Jamie, was there an opponent outside of Texas that you had just like this rivalry, this beef with, that like we got to beat this team. This team matters more than some of the other ones on the schedule outside of the obvious rivalry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I spoke on this a few weeks back, but the one that comes to mind for us, especially us who were a part of that Sherman somewhat friend class, goes back to Oklahoma State with Mike Gundy. I forget what happened, but I think it was a game in you know what? I think it was a game at A&M where they ended up winning in the end. It was a close one, but they kind of did some chicken-ish where they milked the clock way earlier than it needed to. It was almost like, let's play football if y'all was going to beat us, and they ended up beating us, but they won. It was a close game. But I remember going into the locker room after that, and Sherman was just so fired up, so mad. He was mad that we lost, but it was more so like, listen, y'all, I don't like this guy. I don't like this coach. I don't like what he stands for. This is the last time we're going to lose to this team. Like, y'all booked that. So it kind of, us being players of him and bought into his system, it's like your dad being mad at somebody. It's like, you know what? Okay, you mad at him, I'm mad at him too. So to your point, Oklahoma State was that team for me. And I want to say that next year that we played them, we ended up losing again, but it made it that much more worse and that much more anger, because it was like, you don't like them, but we let you down. We didn't get it done. So we all still felt that. And then us leaving the Big 12, it kind of went away.
Do you think the players from this generation hold that same kind of grudge? Like, I'm sure Bryce Anderson is licking his chops for this one. Like, do you think that team is now thinking, you disrespected us last year, we're going to go on the road at your place and disrespect you?
Man, if they aren't thinking that, they should be. You don't have a pulse if you aren't feeling that. And I don't know if they have the stuff brought up on tape or can go back and recall it, but if there was some way, somehow, if I was Jimbo, I'd go into the Wednesday, Thursday team meeting and put the clip up, put a couple clips up, put the billboard material up there, and let it be known, guys, this is how this guy feels about y'all. We stand here, they stand here. We got a chance to go in here and rain on their parade. They got us, we're coming to their house. Let's go in here and take the remote. Go in the fridge, drink the milk, pour it down the drain, and get up out of there. So let's see if they don't hold a grudge, they're crazy, because as a fan, I can't stand Kiffin, and I want to finally get Ole Miss and knock them off.
Did you see any faster tempo in the game on Saturday after the first quarter? Did you see a little bit more of or still kind of like, let's just take our time here?
Not necessarily. It's more of a take our time, and it's not necessarily like we're trying to milk the clock or anything. But I think it's just Jimbo. I think that's his style. It's just, hey, I'm gonna take what they give us. I'm gonna let some seconds come off of this play clock. Where I think there's something to be had if you go into that. Oklahoma's doing it a little bit this year, and we did it a lot my years there with Sherman at the end, where we're going to keep one unit out there on the field. We know we're going to stay. If you try to sub, we're going to burn you. We would do a little hurry up where we'd have a quick count. And if anybody jumped off sides, the routes were off. Outside guys, you're running a fade, and we're throwing it up there, seeing if we can get 30, 40 yards on a pass interference or just a catch. So stuff like that is what I want to see when I say speed up the tempo. Kind of burn them for trying to bring a guy in or not being ready. It's you can't, more than anything, it's not letting these guys get set up to blitz you or to be comfortable. I want them on their heels and on their edge the entire game. So hopefully we can display a little bit of that.
I know the answer to this question before I ask it, because I think we all will have the same answer, but I'm going to ask it, and then I'm going to ask a follow-up or a second part to it. Who do you trust the most on the offense? And I think I know the answer, by the way. And who needs to prove something to you the rest of the way? Who is somebody that you think you need to step up, bro?
Trust the most.
Come on, man.
Gosh, I'm trying to go through this little Rolodex.
Easy one.
If I had to say trust the most, I think I'm gonna go with Anais.
Yes, no doubt.
I think I trust Anais the most. From his punt returns and being able to field those balls and whatnot, to making clutch catches. We hadn't used him in the run game like we have in previous years, but I think he's the one that I trust the most. Somebody that needs to show me a little something. Gosh, I don't mean this in a bad way, but Noah, that first game he wasn't even on my radar. And I thought to myself, man, who is this kid? 3 touchdowns, tall, nice size, nice frame. He's got speed. And I know he's been injured a little bit, but he made a couple great catches last week or the week prior. But I want to see a little bit more of him. Another consideration for that would be Moose, but I don't think it's Moose. I think Moose is in the doghouse for some reason. That's just outsider looking in. So I can't put it on him because it's like the balls aren't coming his way. I know what he's capable of catching and whatnot. Just doesn't seem to be that he's in the fold as much as I like him to be this year. But he's like an honorable mention. But I love to see Noah do a little bit more and make himself known as, hey, I'm taking a step up and I'm the guy that we're depending on. I know Evan does his thing. Evan's amazing, but I love to see Noah take that jump and say, hey, we're in the red zone, throw me that jump ball, and you know I'm coming down with it.
How important is a win on Saturday for multiple levels, where you stand in the season, where you're going at the end of the season, what it means after the season with recruits, transfers, and whatnot? Like, I'm not saying it all falls on Saturday because there's still a lot of football to be played, but like, it can go a long way, Jamie.
Man, this can go a very, very long way. Like you said, you hit it on the head. Recruiting, the salvaging this season, making this season somewhat palatable. It all rides on this weekend. You can break the curse of not being able to be the ranked team on the road. You get Jimbo off of the hot seat, so to speak. And with the loss this weekend, you're looking at facing another possibly ranked LSU team at the end of the year, where if you don't win that, then it becomes this toilet bowl, this hurricane of a storm of, man, these guys can't beat this team. They can't do this. And then going into next year, that's the same question. No matter who they got, they can't beat the team on the road. If you do it this weekend, it takes all that out. It alleviates that. I think it's going to be monumental, especially for this season. And this could have some effect on the next 2-3 years, in my opinion. If we can win this and salvage the season and then come back with the momentum that this brings into LSU at the end of the year, let it be known to our players that you can go in there and win on the road if you come in with the right attitude, the right mindset, and you go in there and don't shoot yourself in the foot. Man, this could go a long way. And I hope the guys, I know as fans, we just been kind of woe is me. That I hate going to my little Monday lunch, especially after a loss, but if the guys on the team only knew how much this game could impact all the Aggies around the nation, I think they would play with a little bit more urgency. So I love to see that. I think we're capable of that. And I know that it's the elephant in the room or the elephant in the auditorium when Jimbo's speaking to those guys. So hopefully they're getting the message, know how big and how important this is, and go out there Saturday and get it done. And I love that we're playing early too. I think that allows you to wake up, eat breakfast, not too much to think about in the hotel room. Just get out there and get the game done.
Jamie, I'm gonna make a real obvious statement here, but there's the camp out there that says there's no way they're going to win on the road against the top 10, 11 team in the country. We haven't won on the road in forever. The offense is this and that. We're going to lose. They're going to lose the last 2 road games regardless. There's the other camp that believes in A&M no matter what. And when the things are in front of them, they don't see it. They think they're going to win, and they get mad at you for criticizing anything about the offensive line or the offense or whatever, right? The reality is, I believe this team will have a chance to win at the end of this game because that's how the story has gone for the last 2 or 3 years. They're in all these games with an opportunity to win. The question then becomes, can they make game-winning football plays at the end of a game? Obviously, many things can happen, but that's where I think doubt sets in because, well, they haven't made those plays against Tennessee, against Alabama, against X, Y, and Z last year. So, but the reality is they're probably closer to a chance to win at the end than they are getting blown out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think this all goes back to mental toughness. It's knowing the mistakes that you've made in the past, whether it be Tennessee with the punt game and all that little riffraff that we had turn around, whether it be Alabama, us having them at home and kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, not being aggressive, not going for it on 4th and 1, not making the tough grab on the 3rd down catch. I mean, there's enough blame to go around. Not everybody can do their part. And that's the mindset I remember that we had going into the game. I forget who on our team started it. And it's cliche at this point, but do your 111th. Don't worry about anybody else. My job is to block this guy and reach him. I need to take care of that job. And if I do that, everything else should take care of itself because I'm believing in my brother next to me on my left and my right. So I think it can be done. Like I said, I really think it can be done. We just got to go out there with the right mindset and have mental toughness. And everybody, again, do your 111th. Don't look too far down the tunnel. Just worry about what's in front of you and what's at stake. And I think the rest will take care of itself.
Jamie, appreciate it as always, bro. Thanks so much.
All right, no problem, David. Y'all have a good one. Happy Halloween and gig 'em, everybody.
Gig 'em. Happy Halloween, Jamie. Jamie McCoy, the real McCoy here on TexAgs Radio. All right, let's hit a break. Open segment, then the group from KBTX will be in the house. We're talking Heritage Films right now. That's Chance McClain's company, and they do documentary films. They do like I don't want to call them shorts, but kind of shorts, right? They do 20-minute Q&As with kids as well. They're awesome. Like, imagine documenting, I don't know, like what Halloween's like for your family, right? Like having Chance as an eye in the sky. Like every year we do this special thing for Halloween where we have the entire neighborhood come to our house. We have a cookout. We have this. We have that. Then we all go trick-or-treating together. And having that group of families like together and say, hey, let's pay Chance to come next year and video it, right? And have that as like a story, a 2-hour story that we can share with our neighborhood for years to come, right? That is something you can do with Chance. He loves telling documentary stories, but they do family ranches, family businesses. They do the patriarch of the family. They do any story out there in a 2-hour documentary form. And then there's the other option, the year flicks, which would be awesome for like a freshman in college, right? 20-minute video about your major, what you're into, Q&A, stuff that you want to talk about and stuff you didn't realize you wanted to talk about. Then compare it to next year. You do a follow-up video and see the growth from freshman year to sophomore year to junior year to senior year, or 12-year-old to 15-year-old to college bound, right? So there's so many different things you can do with Chance in Heritage Films. There's a year flicks option, and there's also the Heritage Film option. The phone number is 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341, or check out yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com is Heritage Films. Apologize to our 50-plus audience that's listening right now because we're going to be sophomoric for a moment. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center, where I'm going to allow K Nasty to... I'm sorry, I can't even look at you guys seriously. K Nasty to introduce the group that's with you.
Hey, everyone. So I just
Kay,
finished...
you got such a deep voice.
Thank you, David. I don't know if you should be telling a girl that, but I appreciate that. I just finished listening to a marathon of Taylor Swift and doing crunches and curls. And I look into the office and someone very famous walks in. And I'm taken aback because I'm very familiar with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift, but not this other musician. And that would be... Oh, I looked the wrong way. Mr. Worldwide himself, Pitbull. Say something, Pitbull.
It's Mr. Worldwide.
And then, if that couldn't get any better, I look the right way now, and there's an even more famous person walking into the office, and that's Poe from the Teletubbies.
So I've watched Teletubbies, obviously, because I have kids, but I thought that was Noid from the Domino's Pizza commercials from back in the day. But nobody from your age group knows what I'm talking about. But I guarantee you, on our text line in a moment, people are like, dude, I know who Noid is. Of course, it was a commercial back in the day. Because our audience is not 12. They are 50 to 100.
The only thing I know about Domino's is that there's a location on Northgate, and that's about it. Because I go to Northgate.
And when you go to North... Really? I thought you go to the gym.
When I'm not in the gym, I'm at Northgate.
Well, this segment went flying. It was great. Thank you, friends, for coming by.
Wait,
Mr.
do you want some
Worldwide.
stats?
Yeah, give me some stats, please.
Okay, because I saw on the rundown, this was a segment for K Nasty to do stats, so I've got some for you.
How awkward is it that they don't know if they should leave or stay? It's great.
Oh,
I love
no,
it.
they can stay.
They can stay. Your bodyguards.
Yeah, so I didn't really want to talk stats about Aggie football. I just want to talk about myself.
Okay.
So today I've eaten 120 calories, 25 grams of fat, and 18 milligrams of sodium.
Do you understand that that is impossible, what you just said? Every gram of fat is worth 9 calories.
Okay. Oh, goodness. Well, math really isn't my strong suit. I'm a comm major, David, so don't count on me to do math.
Okay. Any other stats you want to give us before we get canceled?
Aggie baseball starts soon.
Thank you, Mr. Worldwide. Or, sorry, Mrs. K Nasty. Mr. Worldwide left. And Teletubby, Poe. Poe's, right? That's the name?
Yes.
Thank you for coming in. I'm sorry. Sorry to Billy, to Brandon, to Josh, to Hunter. I'm sorry to the audience. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, KBTX is in the house. Morgan's here. I believe Tyler's here. We'll get into things with them. But right now, we're talking about the Charge Apparel, Aggie owned and operated, purpose-driven apparel brand. A couple of really good Aggies out there. You've got Tucker and Travis, who went to Texas A&M class of 2014. They met in the Parsons Mounted Cavalry in the Corps of Cadets. Tucker was a member of E2, Travis Squadron 2, and upon graduating from A&M, you had Tucker going to the U.S. Army, commissioned to the U.S. Army, and Travis commissioned to the Air Force. But after they separated from the military, they formed the Charge Apparel as a way to continue to serve this beautiful country and veterans through nonprofits that they support. That is why 12% of their total sales, not just profits, are donated to veteran nonprofit partners with a focus on mental health initiatives. An ode to the 12th man. The Charge Apparel stands in support of servicemen and women by donating those percentage, that 12%, to those organizations. Premier fabric, lightweight, slightly tailored fit, just an awesome fit. And it doesn't matter how big, tall, skinny, or you might be. It is the right fit for you. It's going to fit the right way, and you're going to be very happy with the fabric and the quality that you get from our good friends there at the Charge Apparel. You should certainly check them out at thechargeapparel.com. Find them on Instagram at The Charge Apparel or on X, The Charge Brand. Welcome back in TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Our friends here from KBTX in the house. Tyler Shaw. Hello, Tyler.
Hello. How's it going?
Morgan Weaver. Hello.
Hello.
I don't know. So I feel like we're buddies, so like using the last name is kind of like
full government is a bit much.
You know, what's your middle name?
Olivia.
Olivia.
Doesn't that flow a little
It
bit?
does flow.
Thank you. My parents did well.
Your middle name?
James.
James. Tyler Shaw James.
Single syllable. Yep.
Anybody call you TJ?
No. TJ has.
Starting now.
We're gonna start. Starting now. For the first person
Yeah.
who texts TJ to the show. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. So, I said last week several times I didn't think South Carolina would do anything to change our real opinion, other than negatively, right? They lose that game, which in the first quarter, right? But like they won 50-0, or they win 30-17. I think we're gonna feel the same. But how do you all feel heading into about A&M as a team heading into this Ole Miss game, Morgan?
I don't feel too different. I think that they won a game they should have won, which gives fans some more confidence in the team because I think they could have won the 2 previous games. So I think getting the win against South Carolina, which granted is a talented team, but not as talented as A&M. They have Spencer Rattler. They have talented wide receivers. But I think it's a game they should have won, and it's at home. So I don't feel too differently, but it's a win they needed and a win they got.
I'm kind of the same way. It doesn't really change how I feel about the team now. Granted, I was starting to feel a lot better at the end of that first half, the way they played. Second half, I kind of settled back into, okay.
Yeah, they had the 9 points again.
Yeah, this is kind of the same team we've seen. They're just not playing Alabama or Tennessee.
Right.
So that's just, kind of where I'm at. This is going to be a big one this week, obviously.
We look at Ole Miss as this team that's A's got A&M's number the last few years. B, they're highly ranked. But they've been highly ranked against A&M the last couple of years, and this is a game where, last year, they ended up winning, but they lost 4 out of 5 games. I'm looking at what they have left in the schedule. They're still going to have a really nice year, regardless of what happens. But they've got A&M, followed by Georgia, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State. This A&M game determines if they are, going to go to a New Year's Six Bowl or not, really, because they're going to win those last couple of games outside of the Georgia game.
I think it's a must-win for them because, if they lose the A&M game, then you're looking at losing A&M, Georgia. You're on a losing streak then, and the perception of that Ole Miss team changes drastically. So I think in their minds, they're not looking too far ahead, but this is a must-win for Ole Miss if they want to be a top 10 team at the end of the year.
What did you like, Morgan, about the South Carolina game?
I liked the defensive effort. I think Edgerrin Cooper had a big game, obviously. Fidel Diggs, Bryce Anderson. And I liked that they went for it on 4th down and they got those short yardage gains, which I think gives that O-line a bit of confidence, gives fans a bit of confidence looking at the team going for it on 4th down, not being as conservative from Jimbo. So those are a couple of things I liked.
What'd you like?
Kind of the same thing, that the way they played aggressively, not only the going for it on those 4th downs and getting the 4th down conversions, but the end of the first half, where we didn't see that the past few weeks, where under 2 minutes they score and then they get the ball back and they score again, and they use their timeouts to do that. Whereas Tennessee, Alabama, they seem more complacent to, hey, let's just, run this clock out and, head into the half up.
But part of that, I think, is situational, right? Like against A, taking on 2 really good defenses, B, where you got the ball, as opposed to against South Carolina. You got it midfield, so you got to take advantage of your opportunities.
Right. It is situational, but at the same time, it was nice to at least see the aggressiveness in there. And I think against a team like Ole Miss, again, it's going to be situational, but you're going to have to be aggressive if you want to, be in a position to win that game.
Am I making something that isn't there? I keep talking about how personal this game is. Like, it should be personal, right? Like this, I didn't hear that from Jimbo yesterday, but I don't think that's Jimbo's style unless it's after Nick Saban goes crazy one night.
What did you hear from Lane yesterday? I think Lane Kiffin makes things personal.
He does, and he
likes to poke the bear.
He's a funny character. He was taking some subtle jabs in his press conference. Someone was talking about, hey, you're a top 10, top 11 team again, 3rd year in a row. You guys, he's like, yeah, and he talked about their goals and how, they want to be that top 10 caliber team at the end of the year. That's the goal and everything. And he was kind of taken out of context, but then he said, Jimbo's goal is to be bowl eligible, and kind of sliding him that way. He's always giving subtle jabs to Jimbo.
By the way, they might be a top 10 team when it's all said and done, depending on what happens this week. Nobody's expecting them to beat Georgia, although Georgia does look a little, at times, looks vulnerable.
Could be a trap game for them.
But if it is 2 straight losses, then what the conversation point? They're going to win the last 2. Mississippi State's terrible, and they got some cupcake other than that. So let's move on. What did we not like?
I did not like the lack of protection in the first quarter for Max. I mean, he's taking a beating in the first quarter, but I think he still did well overall in the game. And obviously not getting in the end zone in the second half when you have those chances. I mean, Jimbo and everybody else thinks that Max Wright's touchdown was a touchdown, but touchdown or not, that's only one touchdown. Noah Thomas drop in the end zone. He got hit pretty hard, but you had those chances to score and you didn't.
Yeah, same. I mean, they need to convert in the red zone and not just kick field goals, especially when you're going to be playing Ole Miss that you think that they're going to be able to put up some points. So A&M's going to have to match that. And the offensive line it needs to be better. I mean, that's point blank.
And it's been the case for now going on 3 years.
Yeah, unfortunately. And I think that's, sometimes when you see, Max is struggling or something, I think a lot of it's just the protection. When he has time to throw, he looks really good.
Sometimes he holds on to it a little long.
Yes,
though.
yeah. I mean, I can't blame it all on one unit. He has to help them too. But.
What I didn't like in the first quarter was like, let's have these plays that take 12 minutes to develop. I felt like that was part of the problem. Was like these receivers are going deep. Like, no, we've got to release the ball quickly. They weren't doing that. Then they adjusted.
Right, and in that play to Anias, when he got it out, Max is rolling. Anias gets it out fairly quickly, and Anias makes the play. You have the receivers to make the plays. It doesn't have to all be a deep shot down the field. So, I don't know, take advantage of that, I guess.
So how do we think Max played? Because the numbers aren't bad, but the output wasn't, especially in the second half, what we expected. How would you assess Max's game?
I think he looked best when he got it out quickly, obviously. I think sometimes he took too long and was looking at the first read, and when it wasn't there, you saw him hold on to it, and then you saw the defensive line get to him. So I think he played well overall when he got the ball out quickly to his playmakers and just got it in their hands and let them do what they needed to do.
Yeah, I did think he played well. I don't know, and it's kind of hard to tell because South Carolina's defense is not Tennessee's or Alabama's defense. So I don't know how differently he's played over the past month. But it definitely looked more promising last week than it has been.
His numbers, 20 of 30, 249, 1 touchdown, was negative yardage because of the sacks that he faced. But look, we give the offensive line a hard time. And look, they need to block better. They've got to establish the running game. He got sacked on that second drive 3 times. Wasn't sacked again.
Yeah, I think whether they made adjustments between the first quarter and the second quarter was pretty obvious, I think. But also I think he was getting it out a bit quicker, and I think they adjusted a little bit.
Yeah. Where do they have to be elite in Oxford? And Tyler, you take this to start. Because I think it's easy to point out at the offensive line, but they haven't been elite yet.
Right.
So a realistic elite.
Well, a realistic elite, I go to the defense because that is an elite side of the ball. They are playing elite level defense. So I think they need to be elite in stopping the run. And I say stopping, but I mean slowing down, not giving up 400 yards like they did last year. And you can kind of look at the Tennessee game this year. They gave up a lot of rushing yards as well, and they let Jalen Hyatt run all over them. So Ole Miss is going to look at that Tennessee game and kind of see where they can exploit them. I think that will be key.
Yep.
And I agree with Tyler a little bit because obviously I think in the press conference they talked a lot about Judkins yesterday and just how also elusive Jackson Dart is. So I think the run game defense needs to be on their P's and Q's on Saturday.
Yeah, and let's be honest, it would be great to be elite at multiple wide receiver spots, like Anias, Evan, or Noah, Evan.
Them all having a good game at once because I feel like it's been one or the other throughout these past 3 or 4 games. I mean, ever since the first game, really.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is we saw that first game and all of camp leading up to it. So we know the potential of what all these receivers are individually. But yeah, if you could have, close to 100 yards from a couple of dudes, I mean, that would be big.
What about Le'Veon Moss potentially coming back this week and what that can mean to the running? Amari Daniels looked good. Reuben Owens had a nice touchdown, but the numbers are not there per per play, right? Like it seems like 1 or 2 big runs.
No, I think if you take away Amari's like one big run, I think it was like 60 some total yards on the ground. So I think having Le'Veon Moss back would be great, but you still have to establish that run game, and that starts again with the O-line, not to get on them too much again.
Well, I mean, in blocking in general. Go ahead, Tyler.
Well, no, I mean, Le'Veon right now is clearly the number one, but the way this running back room is, it is a running back by committee. But if you have Le'Veon Moss there to help establish the run, then you can plug in Reuben Owens and Amari Daniels. They can get theirs, and I think that just makes it so much more effective.
Let's talk about a couple defenders before we hit a break. Edgerrin Cooper.
He's doing amazing. And I feel like every single Monday we're talking about him in the press conference, and everybody's just saying how big of a change that he's had from last season, this season. But it really just comes down to him, and everybody's saying he's maturing. His eyes are more disciplined. He just has confidence in himself, and you see that week in and week out. And I think it just, his hard work's paying off.
That, I think it was yesterday where Jimbo was talking about like being a freshman in college, right?
Yeah, learning to study.
Yeah, and that hit home because that is a truth. Now, he is obviously not a freshman, but the growth from what DJ Durkin asked of him last year to what he's done this year, you're seeing proof in the production, the numbers, all that.
And I've always, you could always tell he is a good player, but to look at him now, that he's legitimately one of the best, if not the best linebacker in the nation right now in all of college football. I mean, that's pretty amazing just to think about, what he's been able to accomplish. And it, makes you think, the players and the talent, or, have the talent on this team, if they could be more like Edgerrin Cooper with the way they've, he's matured in his game and the study of the game, this team could be really elite.
How about one more for you? Bryce Anderson.
Yeah, 6 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pass breakup. I think Bryce has made a name for himself. He made a little bit of an impact last year, but this year he's really stepping into his own. And I think you can put him in a lot of different positions. He's versatile. So I think, I like Bryce.
Yeah, versatile. That was the word I was thinking of with him. I mean, he affects the run game, affects the pass game, and just key in this defense.
By the way, I don't know. It doesn't make a difference offensively, obviously, but you played Tennessee in a game that your defense played great without Edge Cooper for a half and without Bryce Anderson for the entire game. Probably 2 of your 3 best defensive players on that roster. Like, it doesn't help you offensively, but I wonder how it helps you in other areas leading up to when Tennessee was good.
Mm-hmm. I think with them in that game, it probably could have been a little different, but the defense plays well almost every single game. So I think without getting your offense going in that Tennessee matchup, it's still a loss.
Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes back to how the offense plays. The defense is going to do what they do, even with or without Edgerrin Cooper. Obviously, he's, probably their best player.
But they ran all over them, and I think having Edge there and Bryce, that number maybe is not 229. Maybe it's 189. And what does that mean for the production and when Tennessee scores?
Yeah, and that's going to be big for Ole Miss, if they can slow that run game down. That's going to be big.
Please be healthy, guys. Yeah. All right, we're going to come back with our big takeaways here. It's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. if you would have just heard our conversation. It was like we were watching Fox News here or CNN or something. It was, it's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. The KBTX time here. Tyler and Morgan or Olivia and TJ as
T. Shaw. That's kind of what I've always gone.
In high school, I feel like that was a thing. Like they take your first initial and then your last name.
That was always my
thing.
T. Shaw.
M. Weave in high school.
Weave?
Weave.
Let's go Weave. I'm start using it. Let's do our takeaways, shall we? Can I get our big KBTX big 3 takeaways, Morgan?
Yeah, I think my first takeaway is obviously, I think Trey Zune said it yesterday that he might think the problem not scoring in the second half was complacency after the first with how the game is going, and I didn't really think of it until I heard it yesterday. So maybe they are a bit complacent with how the game is going.
Please don't be complacent ever again.
No.
We're not in a position to be complacent.
No, need to score in the second half, just if anything for morale.
Yep.
Also, when Max got the ball quick and got it to Anias, big things happen. So let's keep doing that. And then also, the FBS opponents left on the schedule don't have the same defenses that they've played. So I think there is hope for the rest of the season.
You think so? Okay.
I do.
All right, takeaway number 1, I would say, is I really liked the aggressiveness, the way they handled the end of the first half and going for it and fourth down. I think that is going to be, those kind of plays are going to be necessary against a team like Ole Miss. Number 2, and it's kind of the same takeaway every week, but this defense is elite. That defensive line is very hard to get past. And them disrupting and making plays is going to be huge, and creating turnovers.
Yep,
if they can. And then number 3, when the playmakers get the ball, good things happen. We need more of those Anias plays.
Considering the offense has struggled to score in the second half of 4 straight games, right, without a touchdown.
Yeah.
How big would we know the answer, but it's more of a talking point. How big is a special teams score, a pick 6, just something to kind of a safety? I don't care what it is, but just to get some positive points from something outside of the offense.
I think it would be huge just for I think mainly for the team, just to get that narrative kind of off their backs. Like, hey, we scored a touchdown in the second half, and that is something to celebrate, even though it's something that you probably should be doing. I think it would be good.
Well, a lot of times that's what kind of tips the game,
momentum.
The scale, the momentum one way or another. It comes down to that pick 6, or, it comes down to the fumble recovery or something like that, a special teams touchdown.
Right.
Tennessee, it came down to they had a special teams touchdown, they didn't. So something like that obviously is going to be huge, especially Ole Miss, where they've lost to recently, but they've been close and they've been in those games.
So let's just for the moment pretend they win. Okay. Yeah. What's the vibe like on Tuesday here? Like we're doing this show, like everybody's here. Everybody loves to come to win. Daryl will be here. Nicole will be here. The whole gang will
All
be here.
All 4 of us
right?
will be
right.
here.
Jenny's going to be here.
Yeah. Josh will be here. The whole everybody, right? What's the vibe like then? Because what is the storyline too?
I think it's huge because that's your first road win in over 2 years.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Just that alone. Not only that it's a good Ole Miss team, but it's your first true road win. So I think the whole kind of vibe of the season changes a little bit if you get this.
You get that win, you go from thinking this is maybe a 7-5 team right now to, they're 9-3, 10-3 with the bowl win. Gosh. Kind of like what Max Wright was saying, what they could do last week. Mm-hmm. But you really believe it if they beat Ole Miss.
It's more believable.
Very believable.
It is. Look, LSU, that's a different animal.
Right.
We'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that.
Right. But at least it gives you hope. And
yes.
That's what we can ask for after the last couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Friends, thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Appreciate you. All right, when we come back on TexAgs Radio, by the way, thanks to our friends at the CW, KBTX over there. Jordan Pugh going to join us. He's going to keep it real. We'll have him. We will also have Jamie Morrison a little bit later than usual, and we'll get to know Ole Miss a little bit more with Neil McCready. That and more. It is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Let's go to the hotline quickly because I want to ask Jordan Pugh a question. We're keeping it real. Can I read some of our text exchange on Saturday? Is that cool?
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, man, yeah, go ahead.
All right. By the way, it's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. First text I get from Jordan, 11:33. This is a terrible start. And I respond with, what do they do during the bye week, with maybe another word mixed in there. He follows up a few minutes later. Carolina is way more physical than us right now. They're beating our on the line of scrimmage.
Yep.
And then, and it's the end of the first quarter. We haven't crossed the 50.
Yes.
Then we didn't text each other anymore because things got better. So, which is good, right?
Yep. And then I was at my daughter's soccer tournament too, so I couldn't really, So that's the only reason why.
Hey, what club does she play for? I want to know this information.
Say that again.
What club does she play for?
The Dallas Renegades.
Okay, all right.
Yep. And so my daughter's 6. She's starting her little soccer journey. So I got a soccer girl and I got a dance girl. So I'm a dance dad too.
Ooh.
So I'm preparing for my father-daughter dance on December 2nd. I'm making my debut.
Hey, I was a bad parent because I didn't know this was happening behind my back. But my daughters were watching a show called Dance Moms. Do not go there. It is the meanest woman who runs that program. It is just I had to eliminate it from our DVR. It had to be gone because that's not allowed in our house anymore.
Well, you know what? I hope the wife doesn't watch the show today because I've never heard of it, nor do I want to hear of it. So, hey, man, I'm right there with you. You know what I mean?
All right.
Well, look.
Get into it.
The first quarter irritated me. It irritated the crap out of me. Okay, they were South Carolina was more physical than us. If I'm not mistaken, was it one? I want to say it was either 1 or 2 turnovers in the first quarter. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. on that.
A&M didn't have any turnovers in the game.
Did we didn't have any? Are you sure?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I'm wrong on that. Okay, because remember I told you I was in between soccer matches. Okay, they were just more physical than us out of the gate. They were pushing us around. I didn't like how our O-line was playing. The D-line was getting pushed back. But we didn't cross the 50-yard line in the first quarter. I just thought it was a terrible start. I thought coming out of the bye week, we would have a better game plan offensively. I thought we would utilize our weapons more, which we did second quarter on. Now, we got to give us credit. We did do that second quarter on. But that first quarter worried me a lot. It seemed like we were out of rhythm. It seemed like they had a better plan or script to start the game. They had us confused. We couldn't make the adjustments very well in that first quarter. Then I think we got on task starting that second quarter. Overall, I thought the game was good. I thought that we got a nice. It seemed like he had his breakout. Like he really got going this week. Defensively, we did what we did, like we always do. Man, we were elite. I don't know how many sacks we had again, but it was a lot. We were getting pressure on the quarterback. How many?
4 sacks.
So we had 4. Okay. So we were getting pressure on the quarterback. Defense was doing what it's been doing every week, keeping us in games, taking over games. Offensively, I still think we're lacking explosive plays. I thought it was a little bit better. My overall feel on the game is I'm glad we won, but I'm not overly impressed by anything I saw. I think the only thing that I'm impressed about was that we got Anias going. I think he had over 100 yards receiving. He was a big impact, for the second quarter on. But other than that, I thought it was a good win. I thought we could have built upon that a lot more, especially with the team that we're superior to. But overall, I'm glad that we got the win. I just think going into this week, this is the swing game. So I know we talked about it last week. I think this is the game that's going to tell us a lot about how we finish out the rest of the season. The perception, the Jimbo, all of that. Because Ole Miss is tricky. Ole Miss can be explosive. They can when they get hot, they get hot and they can play real well on offense. Defense can be opportunistic at times. But we'll see. I'm excited about this week. I think this week is going to be a big one. But I wish we could have done more. We could have established more on offense, more explosive plays on offense against a lackluster South Carolina team. So that's where I am right now. That was my feel. No, I do not recant anything from the first quarter. That's exactly how I feel. That's exactly what I saw. But that's what I got so far.
Well, Jordan, let's get into it too, because like I said on the post-game wrap, and look, maybe it's hyperbole. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. But, like, is this game against Ole Miss potentially, if not the biggest of Jimbo's tenure at A&M? Because there's been some big games. And I'm not saying biggest win, right? But biggest for what it can mean, right? Like, you win, then you know what? Now you can believe that you can go to Baton Rouge and win. And now you can believe that you can finish 9-3, potentially 10-3. You lose, it is exactly where you've been. You are a 7-5 team in everybody's eyes, and yes, better than 5-7, but that ain't cutting it.
Yes, this is the most important game by far. Okay. How do I want to preface this? South Carolina. The reason why I'm happy that we won, I'm glad that we got the win. I'm happy about that. The reason why I'm kind of lackluster about it is because we should have dominated them from the jump. We are the better football team, hands down. Okay. I just, I think that we just didn't perform to the best of our abilities as a team overall. And I think coming off of the bye week, that was the most disappointing thing. Now, going into the Ole Miss game, the Mississippi schools, for whatever reason, have always been a trap for us. Whether it's Ole Miss, whether it's Mississippi State, for whatever reason. Ever since we joined the SEC, they've been those trap games for us. I just think the perception of Jimbo right now, you look at, his record overall at the school, you see the way that the past couple of seasons played out, but even that though this season has played out, this is, I think, I'll just say it, I think this is the biggest game that he has. Because it's gonna swing a lot of people's opinions on who he is as a coach, on what he does with this program. And then you talk about the momentum going forward for the rest of the season. You know that you got LSU looming at the end of the year. There's an opportunity, man, where you guys can finish out how you want to, that 9-3 record that we talked about, possible 10 with a bowl game. Man, I think this is the one that you got to get. This is the one that you have to make a statement on. I think he knows that. I think the players know that. And I think there's a little bit more pressure on Jimbo, just from a job standpoint leading into this game. It'll be interesting to see what it looks like this week. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive he is, because you know what Lane is going to do. Lane is out to win the football game, and by all means necessary, right? So I just think, man, this is the one. This is the one that's going to tell a lot. I don't know if it's necessarily like a job security type of game yet. But I think the perception and where things start to move and start to fester is going to be built off this game right here.
Hey, you mentioned that you weren't impressed with the way, I forgot how you phrased it, but the way they beat South Carolina. I'm just going to throw this out at you. As bad as South Carolina is, I'm going to throw you some of the games that they've played in. They lost by 14 to North Carolina. They beat Mississippi State by 7. They lost by 10 to Georgia. Okay, A&M beat them by 13. I'm just throwing that out there. Tennessee blew them out by 20. Florida beat them by 2. And Missouri beat them by 22 points. So I say that to you like A&M did what they're supposed to do, a tight SEC game. And unfortunately, this is who A&M is right now. They're not who we want them to be, but they do beat the teams that they're supposed to beat right now.
All right. Well, you said the magic phrase, they did what they were supposed to do. What I hear is mediocrity. That's what I hear. I hear they did what the average team does. That's what I heard. You have a team, like I told you at the beginning of the season, you have a team that is fully loaded and fully stocked. I don't think that, let's put it like this. The defense has been dominant all year. The defense has done what they're supposed to do this year. When you look at it from an offensive perspective, the biggest thing that I've had questions with is, can we capitalize on the opportunity that the defense gives us week in and week out? Can we be explosive? Can we put up points? Because there's going to come a time where we're going to have to battle it out. Part of me feels like it's this week with Ole Miss. You know you're going to get that with LSU. You got to be able to go toe for toe. And I just thought that this week, like you said, we did what we were supposed to do, but it was very average looking. It didn't look dominant to me. It didn't look like we were the superior team, and I think that's a lot of the issues that the fan base has with the amount of talent that we have, the changes that we've made on the coaching staff, all that. I was expecting to see a little bit more, especially coming off the bye week. I don't know, maybe that altered my expectation as well. But I just think moving forward, this game against Ole Miss, it has got to be one that you win first and foremost. You just got to get the win. Okay, so let's make sure we make that clear. But also, there has to be an explosion of talent. There has to be a display of talent, man, where you really see these guys take the next step. And I think that's part of the problem that I have is we've built up these recruiting classes. We got all this talent, but where is the next step? I think a lot of the things that you posed in that question with Jimbo is where is this next step taken? Another 7-5, another 8-4, whatever. This game has got to be the one that catapults it. It's got to be the one that solidifies what this team is, but it also has to be the catapult to it, or the catalyst to the rest of the season and coming years. So that's just where I am. I understand those other scores. I understand what South Carolina has done with some teams, but I still don't use that as an excuse. I still don't want to accept mediocrity. And I think a lot of times we fall into the trap of accepting that once we see kind of how the season has kind of gone. And so I think, man, there's a way to write that for the rest of the year, and I think they need to show that.
Hey, by the way, I want to continue down that path of mediocrity because not an excuse, but a reality of the situation. And to be honest with you, I don't care it's the reality of the situation. I expect bigger than where we're at right now. But I'm going to say it out loud just so we can have the conversation piece. Is Alabama 7-1 if they're on their backup quarterback? No, they're not.
Say that one more time.
Is Alabama 7-1 if Tyler Buckner is starting? If Jalen Milroe went down?
No.
If Jackson Dart goes down for Ole Miss, are they 7-1?
No.
Okay. LSU, if Jaden Daniels goes down, are they 6-2?
No.
And then the rest, it doesn't really matter, right? If KJ Jefferson isn't there, like Arkansas, they probably don't win a game. Well, so I say all that just to, look, it's not okay. This is 3 straight years of losing your starting quarterback. It is not okay, right? You've got to fix that problem that your quarterbacks keep getting hurt, 100%. But the reality is, when Connor went down, even though I wanted to believe that Max could be an elite-level quarterback, he was your backup quarterback, and I expected more offense. I did expect more offense. I still am expecting more offense. But I think the other teams would probably be struggling too, I guess is what I'm saying. And it shouldn't matter. But for a conversation piece, I throw it out at you.
Okay, so we're living in hypotheticals. So with those are good examples that you gave. I can't refute that. Those are good examples that you gave. Okay? Let me ask you this. Did you believe from the first 2 or 3 games with Alabama that they could be where they are right now?
No. They fixed their offense for Jalen Milroe, and they have the GOAT coach.
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's coaching. So we're going to use that as the case study. When you watched Alabama for the first 3 games, you said there's no way this team is going to get out without at least 2 losses. Let's say 3. Let's throw 3 in there. There's no way. There's no way you looked at that team and you said, we got them.
We're talking about the greatest coach of all time, though, right? I'm just saying, I want to make sure.
Okay, so let's get into that. So if you want to have that conversation, let's do it. We're paying Jimbo just like he's the greatest coach of all time.
Yep.
So let's have that conversation.
Michigan State was paying Mel Tucker the same kind of way.
Thank you. It flows. Same thing. Dabble's in that conversation too right now. Okay.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. Nick sat back and he looked. He said, "You know what? This is who we are, and we've got to be able to formulate our type of scheme to the personnel that we have." The one thing that I've been saying about Max Johnson each week is I don't feel like we're catering that offense to what he does well. I feel like what we did with Connor, the offense that was being run fit Connor's skill set to a T.
Right.
When you look at Max, it's a lot of downfield throws. It's a lot of plays that take a lot of time to develop.
Yep.
I think Max is a quick rhythm guy. Get the snap, get the ball out. Get the snap, get the ball out. That's what he thrives in. Okay. So you saw Nick Saban take his team and you saw him go, all right, scratch the game plan for the season. This is what we are, and now they're thriving. Because Alabama had a dominant defense. Nick Saban said the one thing that we do have is we have a dominant defense. The second thing that we have is we have a mobile quarterback who can use his legs. They're starting to use Milroe's legs more in the offense. You're starting to see Milroe thrive a little bit more because now they're suiting everything around his skill set. We have a dominant defense just like Alabama. Probably one of the best fronts in the country. I've been saying that. We have probably the best receiving core, one of the best receiving cores in the country. We have everything around that quarterback that you need, but yet we're not utilizing what he does best. I think that's when we talk about the mediocrity standpoint, or we talk about the coaching element. That is what I think is bothering me, but ultimately bothering a lot of the fan base. Is there's no way that you have this skill, all these guys who are this skilled, and you still end up with the same result. That's why this game against Ole Miss is important.
Yep.
I'll go back to the conversation we had last week about Eli Drinkwitz, about having Mark Stoops. Hell, if you had Lane Kiffin running our offense, what does your imagination conjure up if you see Lane Kiffin with the type of skill set that we have?
Well, I mean, the guy has a phenomenal offense wherever he goes, and he adjusts based on the talent that he has.
Exactly. That's why this game against Ole Miss is important. This is exactly why. Because the changes have been made. The defense is doing this thing. The defense is going to keep you in the ball games, but you can't ask the defense to be perfect every single series. You can't. You have to be able to have a scoring fest every once in a while throughout the season. And that's what scares me about the offense is, man, I think it was Tennessee. I think Tennessee was the first game when I looked at the offense, I said, man, this looks a lot like Jimbo's offense last year. When the game started against South Carolina, it looked a lot like Jimbo's offense last year. And it's kind of like, are we reverting back to what he's comfortable with? When things start getting tight, it looks like the offense is reverting back to the same type of schematic play that it had last year. And that's what is starting to fester in me a little bit. Now, I want to hold out hope, and I want to make sure that I'm just not being a fanboy here,
right?
And I'm looking at everything objectively. But man, I can't ignore what I'm seeing right now. The defense is balling. Defense doing what it has to do. But man, we've got to get more production from the offense. And moving forward through the rest of the season, that's the part that may cripple us in the rest of the run. So how do we adjust? What does that look like moving forward this week? That's the question.
Hey, Jordan, I want to bring up one other backup quarterback comment. And by the way, somebody asked me why I bring that up. Like, it's to get great answers like that. Like, that was an awesome answer to that question. But we're in the middle of finding out how Texas handles being on their backup quarterback. First test went flying colors. I know it's the Big 12.
Yep.
They're not doing that against, Ole Miss and Mississippi State. Like, I get that. But props for them taking care of business. But we're about to find out about Texas being on their backup quarterback. They're living what A&M has lived for the last couple of years.
All right. You just made me think about something.
Okay.
All right. We've been recruiting at a high level, correct?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just throwing that out there. High level. So we've been recruiting at a high level. When Sarkisian was at Alabama, who were his quarterbacks? It was Hurts to TUE to Mac Jones to Bryce Young.
Mm-hmm.
What's the point that I'm making? We keep talking about the backup quarterback. At Texas A&M University, we have recruited our butt off. We have recruited top-tier guys. And we've brought in transfer guys, for example, that can play at the SEC level or the elite level, okay? Each and every quarterback that Steve Sarkisian had a different skill set. Jalen was different from TUE. TUE was different from Max. Max was different from Bryce. But yet, all four of those guys thrive in that system. Okay, so we have our guys. So let's go back. We have the Kellen Monds of the world. We have the Zach Calzadas of the world, who was a highly recruited guy coming out. I'm drawing a blank here. You had the Connor Wegmans coming out. You had the Haynes King coming out of high school. You have all those guys where we have stockpiled quarterbacks who were highly successful, highly sought after. But yet there has been a development problem with our offense,
mm-hmm.
which has displayed itself each year that Jimbo's been there. Okay? So we finally have some legs going with Connor. I thought Connor, man, let's put it like this. If we're speaking hypotheticals, I think if Connor continues to play, he's in the Heisman race. That's how well I thought he was playing. All right? But you also have a guy in Max Johnson who has the ability to be just as effective, but used in a different way. This is where it's the swing game for me. There is not an excuse. You're three deep at running back. Your offensive line has been not bad. It ain't been good. It's been very average. So that's been the mediocre part of the offense. But your skill set is phenomenal. All this other type stuff. At some point, you have got to stop coming up with the excuse, and you have to execute for using Jimbo's word. Okay, and you have to be able to utilize what you have. I just want to make sure, and I want to keep the standard that we take what we have and we utilize and we maximize it moving forward throughout the rest of the season.
Jordan, let's close it out with this.
I'm loving this conversation. By the way,
it's been good, man.
I wasn't expecting this. I wasn't expecting this for today.
And by the way, some people like C. Rogers, like he wants me to say what the problem is. Look, the situation is what the situation is, right? Like you're in the middle of a season. Yes, the coaching staff has to figure it out. That's always been the case. I'm not saying it's not the case, but this is where you are in the season. Can you make the necessary adjustments on the road and win a game that I think will be tight in the fourth quarter? Why will it be tight? Because A&M seems to be tight in all these games in the fourth quarter, right? So I ask you, do you think they can and will make the right plays down the stretch against Ole Miss?
Yes, they can do it. Will they do it is the question. That's the one that drives everybody nuts. It's not I don't know how many times I've said it. They can win out the rest of the games. Matter of fact, they can dominate the rest of the games. It's will they do it? It's not a lack of personnel. It's not a lack of ability. It's are we putting them in the right position to be successful? That comes down to coaching. So let me give you two examples. Alabama, Georgia. Alabama, Georgia at the beginning of the year, very rocky, very slow starts. It seemed like they're trying to figure their way out. You could throw Ohio State in there too. Let's throw Ohio State in there. So those three schools, it seems like the boat's shaking a little bit. But lately, as the season has gone on, all of a sudden you're starting to see different teams. You're starting to see them be more dominant. You're starting to see them take over. That's coaching. Because coaching, you took those first couple of games and you realized who you are, and now you elevated their strength. You're playing to the team's strength, okay? And you're seeing a different team as they move down the stretch. That's what we need to see from our football team. That's what we need to see from Jimbo.
Love it, bro. Always good, man. Always a great conversation.
All right, man. Let's do it.
Let's get you in studio soon, all right?
All right. Sounds good.
Later, bro. Jordan Pugh, they're on the hotline. I'll just hit a break here. Right now, we're talking about the Association of Former Students. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with other Aggies, then check out the Association of Former Students. They're bringing Aggies of all ages together for events throughout the year, like marquee events like the Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo Gathering, and when they all welcome tens of thousands of guests. And there are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available to get your brand in front of all those attendees. All events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title sponsorship naming, on-site presence, activation, recognition in social media posts, and of course a lot more. There's also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and Aggie News newsletter, which are seen by over 230,000 people. So if your business is ready to engage with Aggies, choose a partner with the organization that's been in support of the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information and options throughout the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. Let's talk a little Aggie volleyball. Jamie Morrison in studio. Usually at 9:20, we had to adjust our schedule a little bit. Good morning, buddy.
Yeah, sorry I'm late. Thanks for waiting for me.
So we'll just get right into it. A little rough stretch going on right now. How do you see things? Like, where's the issue? Is it the competition you've played against? Maybe you all are not doing what you're wanting. Where are we in this little stretch?
Yeah, I think seasons have their ups and downs. And I was doing a thing for our Dig Deep just about, and I think volleyball, you play 30 matches in a year. And it's not a sport where you can go undefeated. So looking at the schedule, we had 2 of our tougher opponents in this stretch. So that was a piece of it. Just until you look at rankings, you got Florida, who is 17. You got Tennessee, who at one point was top 10, dropped a couple matches, and I think they're 12 or 13. So went back and watched the video, and it's always interesting when you kind of go back, and normally it either reinforces stuff or it tells you kind of the opposite thing, and this was almost both. It was reinforced some things that Tennessee is really good at that we need to upgrade. And then at the same time, some things that I thought, we were struggling into the match. It was just a product of we were playing a really good volleyball team, and they were able to dig some balls that normally we put away, and we weren't able to sustain. But even with that, I think we're, at least I'm frustrated. I think our group's frustrated. It's just we weren't playing our best, and we were still getting within a point in 2 of those sets, and we just couldn't get over that hump. So.
How do you not allow this stretch to linger? I know 3 is too much for you, but like to linger in the matches that are ahead, because these are very needed wins for you all.
Yeah, I think it's the same thing you do kind of on a win or a loss. You learn from it, and then you flip the page and move on. And I think it's the biggest thing. Make sure that the pieces that cause the losses aren't becoming habits. Understand the other pieces where it's just, again, the certain things against Tennessee. It was like Tennessee is just better at us at A, B, and C. We got to upgrade. And then go and upgrade. It's move on to the next one and make sure that you're grinding out the wins that we need down the stretch here.
As a coach, how do you personally deal with the storm from a coaching perspective, from a mood perspective? Yeah. Do you change anything? You seem not to be, maybe I'm wrong here, but you don't seem to be very emotional outwardly right now. Like when talking about it, you seem to detach from the moment.
Yeah, I think coaching's hard. And I always tell people whenever I'm mentoring people that are going from being an assistant to a head, it's one of the hardest shifts that you ever make because you're not getting feedback other than W and L. And if you ride the emotions of that, of like, oh, I'm great, I'm horrible, I'm great, I'm horrible, you're in for a rough ride. So it's got to be having some fundamentals, some foundations that you're going to operate under and evaluate based on those. So I'm going to teach in this way. I'm going to, develop our culture in this way. And then if you're swaying from that, that's when you get a little bit judgmental of like, okay, I can do better than this. So I try to operate under those of, am I operating this team under the fundamentals that I thought? Or are we getting away from those and that's why we're losing? And then I get judgmental on myself. But if you just kind of look at the W and the L or 3 losses in a row and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm horrible, like you're going to go into a, spiral that you're probably not going to get out of.
To follow that up a little bit, it's how do you like look at this as this is a necessary evil in coaching and in learning and growing as a team. Like you don't want to lose 3 in a row, obviously, but like there's value in losing, especially if you can apply it ahead.
Yeah, I think we've been saying it all year. And like I've come in here, we've had 1 loss. This is the first time we've had 3, and those are harder. They start to build on each other. But even after the 1 loss, it's the idea that you got to learn. You have to take it. You have to learn from it. And I think the thing that gives me encouragement going forward is every single loss that we've had is built towards something positive. So I came in here at one point and talked about losing to Arkansas. That, hey, like we were tired, we were sick, we had some flight delays, all sorts of things happened, and we were able to go out and kind of grind out a set win in there and then be close in some others, and then it fell apart. And then the next match we turned around and we beat Florida. So it's got to be, hey, like learn from the things that got us into this, that we need to be better at A, B, and C. Like we need to be able to fight even when we're not playing our best. The lesson I hope we learned from this last match, even though we're not playing our best, we're within 1 point in 2 of those sets. And it's got to be that. And hey, it doesn't matter if we're not feeling great. It doesn't matter if, we're not playing great. All we need to do is be 2 points better than our opponent. And that's the lesson I hope we take from it and we apply this next week against Alabama on Friday.
I feel like at least against Tennessee, that lesson was kind of learned throughout the match, right? Because you did play some of the best volleyball in the third set.
Yeah, I thought, and again, like the thing that was encouraging to me is we turned things around a little bit in the third set. And we've talked about this early on in the year, and like lessons maybe don't become a piece of who you are. That when you're playing a good volleyball team, you got to come out from the beginning and grind, just because you can't, get in an 0-2 hole because we didn't show up right away. It's got to be, all right, maybe we lose the first, we rebound, we win the second, and then all of a sudden it's this grind back and forth against the best teams where it goes 5 sets. And I think our sport's very, very interesting. It's one of the few in the world where you get a reset. Like, even if you lose the first set, you get to reset in the second at 0-0. It's not like basketball where you get into a 20-point hole and you've got to dig out of the 20-point hole. It's not like football where you have a bad first half and you got to dig out of it, or vice versa. It's every single set, it resets back to 0, and it's about me showing up now. And if I don't in this set, I need to do it in the next one for sure. So that's a muscle we're learning to flex over time.
How about early success and what it does to expectations internally? Sometimes it sets unrealistic expectations as well for fans and players in the locker room.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was full. If you rewind, I don't know, 6 months ago, and then we were sitting down here and say, hey, did you think we would be whatever we were at one point, like 12-2, 16-3, something like that, whatever it was? I'd probably say no. I wouldn't have expected that at the beginning of the season, but I think the expectations got upgraded, but I think it was because of the way we were playing volleyball. And my biggest thing is just we need to get back to the fundamentals of how we were playing at that time. And regardless of win or lose, I'm happy with that. But I think that style of volleyball wins volleyball matches, and we need to get back to it.
Let's close out Alabama, Auburn, big weekend.
Big weekend. Another weekend at home, too. Another opportunity for us to play in front of the 12th man. So, Zach
Reed.
Looking forward to it. And 2 really good opponents. Just Alabama's been struggling a little bit this year when you look at the records, but every time I've been scouting other teams and watching them, like, man, they're physical. Like, they have some people that can put some heat on a volleyball. And then Auburn, good volleyball team. I think still ranked or right near the edges of it. So they're either 24, 25 or just out, but good volleyball team that's had a good season. And I think and 2, I think that we absolutely need to win. So looking forward to the opportunity to rebound.
I saved this one for you because you're always here when I do the spot on Aggie Express. So I saved it. I was like, hey, Jamie's coming in later. I'll do it now. Because you've almost memorized it, right?
I do. I think I have the phone number memorized. I might be caller number 1 this time.
Caller number 1. We're going to give you a free car wash from Aggie Express Car Wash in South College Station off of William D. Fitch in Greens Prairie. Aggie owned and operated with the friendliest staff and a personal touch. They offer a monthly membership, but we'll give the first caller a free car wash right now from Aggie Express in South College Station. 979-693-1150. All right, it's TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's get to know a little bit more about Ole Miss. Neil McCready, a good friend of the show, joining us here, rebelgrove.com. Neil, what's up, bud?
David, happy Halloween. Hope you're doing well.
Hope you're doing well, man. So I actually didn't realize this. I was in my mind, I was thinking before I got into today, it was like, well, if Ole Miss struggles like they did at the end of last year, what kind of record are they going to have? And then I look at their schedule. Really, it comes down to, in my opinion, this week and Georgia for them regardless. Like, they're going to have a good year regardless, not maybe where they are right now, but regardless of what happens, and I've used that word 100 times now, they're going to be in a pretty good spot, I feel. Just so how important is this A&M game because of that?
Oh, it's huge. It's you have to make a couple of assumptions here. You have to assume that Ole Miss, like everybody else, is going to lose to Georgia because nobody beats Georgia. They haven't lost in 25 games, and they haven't lost in Athens since 2018. So if you're counting that as a W, well, God bless you in your optimism, but it would be a monumental upset. And then you have to assume that you win at State. And Ole Miss is better than State this year. They were better than State last year. I think they're even considerably better this year, but it's still a rivalry game on the road, and it's college football and weird things happen. But if you make those two assumptions, then yes, Texas A&M is the difference between 10-2 and 9-3. It's the difference between maybe the Citrus Bowl or what used to be the Outback Bowl. I don't know what we call it now, or an Access Bowl, maybe the Orange or the Cotton. It's a big deal. It's a huge, huge game. It would be for Ole Miss, a program that's, I think, won 10 regular season games twice in the program's history. It would be an opportunity to do it for the third time. For Lane Kiffin, it would be the second time in 3 years. They went 10-2 in 2021. So it's monumental. And then, look, back to the Georgia game for a minute. In the event that you give Ole Miss a win against Texas A&M on Saturday, that puts them at 8-1, puts them at 5-1 in the league, and it makes the Georgia game a free shot. It's a free shot. There's nothing to lose. And if you happen to win it, well, obviously the repercussions are monumental. You would immediately launch yourself into the college football playoff conversation. And, a loss to Texas A&M eliminates all that. That's out. At that point, that conversation is over, and Georgia's a free shot, but it doesn't have the same upside if you were to pull it off. And then you'd finish with ULM and Mississippi State. And like you said, it would still be a very good year, but they've positioned themselves to have a special year, but it's contingent on beating Texas A&M.
Do you think, and after kind of going through what's left in the schedule, I think I know the answer, but is this Ole Miss team more like the 2021 team with Matt Corral, or more like the team last year that lost 4 or 5 to end the season?
They learned a lot from last year. They talked about it all off season. They've talked about it a lot this season. They learned about the absolute paramount importance of culture, especially when you are a program that is being built through the portal. I think Lane will tell you that last year they sort of eschewed that. They're like, it's football. You bring in players play. And I think they discovered that wasn't the case, that you had to have more than that. It had to be more than that. And they've been much more cognizant of that over the course of this season, over the course of the off season, over who they brought in. And this is a more of a workman-like team. I think it's different than both of those two teams, but it's certainly more like the 2021 team where there's actual leadership on this team. It's not a knock on last year, but last year's team was not particularly strong mentally. This one is. This team has trailed Tulane, LSU, and Arkansas in the fourth quarter of games and come back and won. This is a far more resilient, tougher team, even though I'm not sure that it's any more talented than last year's team. Maybe not as talented.
Neil, I look at their sack numbers. I see 30 sacks, and I haven't gone in and haven't dove into it and seen where they happened and how it's happened. But A&M gets a lot of credit for their 33. Ole Miss is close. So tell me about that defensive front and how they get to the quarterback.
They've done a really good job with matchups. They're deep there. They don't have the special 5-star kind of player up front, but they've got 3 guys that are on the NFL radar. Another couple that are pushing it. And then they've got a couple of veteran guys that, even though they probably won't play at the next level, they've played a lot of football and they're really savvy. And they're able to play a lot of players, and they're getting a lot of second half sacks because they're fresh. And, I don't know if you've noticed this around the league. I certainly think I have. I think offensive line play around college football is down.
Mm-hmm.
I think offensive line play in the SEC is down, and it has allowed Ole Miss with Jared Ivey and Cedric Johnson and J.J. Pegues and some of those guys. Akilo Stone's been a surprise. Some of those guys have been able to get to the quarterback and make plays.
Talking to Neil McCready here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So I'm listening to Lane's presser yesterday, and I take it as digs at Jimbo and at A&M in a Lane way. Well, others have responded to me that that's just Lane. That's just who he does against. But there was a little more in that one. You know the guy better. Tell us.
I was blown away yesterday sitting there. I was like, wow, this is just shade. Wasn't even trolling, because trolling is usually subtle. I thought this was direct. Now he was very complimentary of Texas A&M, and I agree with him. By the way, I've watched 6-7 A&M games this year. That is an elite roster, man. I mean, they are really talented. Lane doesn't have that level of high school talent on his roster. He doesn't have those guys. He's had a hard time getting those guys. So I think on one hand, he was complimenting what Texas A&M has done and putting that collection of talent together. And on the other hand, he was very clearly, repeatedly saying they should be better than they are. And he complimented Petrino, and in so doing, took shots at Jimbo, saying that they're even harder to play this year because schematically they're better. He said that 2 or 3 times. I mean, that is a shot at Jimbo. They don't like each other. I don't think Jimbo visited with Lane before the game last year in College Station on the field. I think Lane took offense to that. They've taken shots at each other about the Saban stuff. I just don't think the two men care for each other that much on a personal level, and it came out in yesterday's press conference at the same time while he was being very complimentary of the collection of talent that's at Texas A&M. Because, David, I mean, from the outside looking in, that is a really talented roster. I mean, they have some guys on defense that you're just like, whoa. Like the linebacker, I mean, that kid is special. And then they've guys got up front that are incredibly disruptive. I watched, A&M against Auburn. I watched A&M against Arkansas, where just defensive line alone disrupted that game in a way that Auburn and Arkansas, respectively, really had no chance.
Well, the defense hasn't been the problem. The offense has been the problem, and part of that is because Connor's not here. The offensive line's been a struggle. But tell me about the Ole Miss defense beyond the 30 sacks. Like these games I'm looking at have been pretty close for the most part.
Yeah. They're Pete Golding, the former Alabama defensive coordinator, is in year 1 at Ole Miss. He's done a remarkable job. They went in and added more than 20 guys out of the portal. They've kind of revamped the whole thing. Early in the season, it was a little shaky. They've gotten better and better, with the exception of LSU. And Lane has repeatedly said, and I kind of think he's right, you have to take LSU. It's a bit of an outlier. That offense is so good. You guys will see it at the end of the year. I mean, you'll have your hands full. That offense is, when Daniels is healthy and those receivers are healthy and they get rolling, they're hard to stop. And they did their number in Oxford against Ole Miss in a wild, high-scoring game. But he said, you learned from that, but you also have to be careful that you don't overreact to that, because that's how good they are. And there's not another offense in the league that compares to what LSU does. And other than that, they've just been solid. They're not super fast, but they're in the right place. They're pretty opportune, causing some turnovers. They bend some, but they're pretty good in the red zone. He's done a good job. But look, you don't look at that defense on the field or on paper and you're not wowed by it. It's not full of elite guys. They've got a freshman linebacker, Suntarine Perkins, who's going to be a very good player in this league, maybe a great player in this league. And he's getting better week after week and is becoming pretty impactful. But other than him, I don't know that there's this collection of guys that you look at and go, that guy's a star. That guy's an SEC elite player. But they've done a really good job of using the pieces in the right way, and kids are starting to believe in it, buy in it, and they're playing with more confidence on the defensive end. And they've had 3 pretty good defensive games in a row. Arkansas and Auburn and now Vanderbilt.
Neil, do you expect this game to be a close one in the fourth quarter like they've been in the past and like all of these A&M games? Just what's your gut of how this game plays out?
Yeah, I think this is a close game. I don't really see a scenario where either team blows the other one out. I don't know how that would. I have a hard time sort of picturing that in my mind. I mean, other than the goofy stuff, right, where one team turns it over 6 times, and that's not predictable. And that stuff happens, but it's pretty rare. I think A&M's going to have a lot of effectiveness defensively against Ole Miss. Ole Miss is going to try to get to Johnson, and I think they probably approach it like they're confident that they can. I'm not completely sure Jackson Dart's completely healthy, and when he's not, he hasn't been as effective as he was earlier in the year when he was off to a fantastic start. Yeah, I think it's a close game. I think Lane was being serious when he said he's really glad this one's in Oxford, not at Kyle Field, where the crowd could work against Ole Miss late. Obviously, they'll have the advantage of the crowd will be in their favor. But, yeah, I think it's a super close game. I don't see how it's not. Ole Miss has played a bunch of close games. Georgia Tech was a fairly close game. Tulane was a fourth quarter game. They kind of handled Auburn. It ended up looking closer than it was. The Arkansas game was very close. They could have easily lost to LSU. I anticipate more of the same.
Neil, great stuff, man. Appreciate your time, brother. Let's talk soon, all right?
All right, David. Thank you.
Take care. Neil McCready there, rebelgrove.com, does excellent work. Always love running into him as you see media days or whatnot. All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with some stats from Ethan Jones right now. Caldwell Country Chevrolet. You know where to find them, Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. When you're ready for a vehicle, just start your search there. I don't care if you're in Dallas, if you're in Houston, Navasota, I don't know how I picked those three, San Antonio, wherever you may be, right? Look, you should check, with the internet, I don't know if you've heard of it, you can check like these lots around in Texas and see what the pricing, right? Check out Caldwell Country Chevrolet. And if you're close, definitely check it out. But start online because you'll see the deals that they have. You'll see the vehicle selection that they have. And then you get a kind of feel for what potentially is out there for you. And then if you are able to make the commute out there, you're going to be blown away by the customer service, by the pricing, by the trade-in value, and just the good old people that work there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It is the place to go if you're looking for pre-owned vehicles, if you're looking for just something different, if you have got a kid who's going to be driving here soon, place to go and get your vehicle. 15-minute drive at the very edge of Bryan to the very edge of Caldwell. Just a short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell and online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Ethan Jones has got some stats for us from the South Carolina game. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the best quarter, obviously, from that game was the second quarter. That's the reason we won. We outscored them 21-0 in the second quarter. And there's some things we did in the second quarter. If we can continue to be successful in them for the rest of the season, I think we can have a good end of the season. One was yards per play. We had 7 yards per play in the second quarter. The rest of the game, only 4.3 yards per play. Yards allowed, we in the second quarter, they had negative 21 yards. The rest of the game, they had 4.8 yards per play. We had 4 sacks in the second quarter, 0 the rest of the game. Big thing was big plays. We had 4 total in the second quarter, only 5 for the rest of the game. And we had 0 big plays allowed in the second quarter, 7 the rest of the game. Our third down percentage, which is a big thing, like this whole season, third down the percentage has been one of the biggest things determining wins and losses. We were 66.7 in the second quarter, and then only 23.1 in the rest of the game.
So we all about the second quarter.
We need to continue to do what we were doing in the second quarter. Another big thing I saw was Aniyah Smith. He had a great game, 6 receptions, 118 receiving yards, and a 42-yard touchdown reception, the longest touchdown for A&M this season. He was definitely more involved, and when Aniyah Smith is more involved, we win. Here's some stats that show that. Receptions and wins, he averages 5. In losses, he only averages 2.7. Receiving yards and wins, he averages 86.8. In losses, only 45. 15-plus yard receptions, he has 12 in our 5 wins and only 4 in our 3 losses. So it's all about getting Aniyah Smith involved. He's our best playmaker, and we need to give him the ball. When we do, we win. Here are a few more promising and discouraging stats for the rest of the season from the South Carolina game. So one of A&M's biggest weakness on defense this season has been their secondary and allowing explosive plays. But Texas A&M defense held Spencer Rattler to 176 passing yards, only 1 20-plus yard completion, and only a 60.6 completion rate. Before this game, Spencer Rattler averaged 29.7 passing yards, 4.7 20-plus yard completions per game, and a 70.6 completion rate. So our secondary looked really good against Spencer Rattler, who's been a really good quarterback this season.
All right, hold the rest of the stats or the next one for the rewind. Good job, Ethan. Appreciate you. That's going to do it for TexAgs Radio on a Tuesday. Tomorrow we're doing the old switcheroo. Bronny's going to join us early. Schloss coming in. We've got some other surprises for you. That and more. It's TexAgs Radio. We'll see you mañana.